with a voice roll call, and we'll begin as we always do with Member Bogus. What are we going to do next year, right? Who's going to be the new Member Bogus?
Member Britton, probably.
Nope, Bollinger. We got Bollinger and Booth. Yeah. Yeah, you're going to be first. You're up. Okay, anyway. Oh, it's true. It's right in front of me. Yeah. All right. Member Bogus is here. Member Bollinger, her things are here, but that doesn't count. Member Booth is here. Member Brenton is here. Perfect. Member Davis here. Member Earl is here. Member Green. I'm going to look to you if we have any online. But okay. Member Hall. He's coming. Member Kelly?
Here.
Thank you. Member Carey is here. Member Lear? Somewhere. Member Longacre? She's got some.
Lear online, because she was online during our long.
Oh.
So I just put a chair somewhere.
Thank you. She's not on yet. We'll keep an eye out for her. Member Reel? Nothing yet. And Member Wood is here, and I am here. So let's go ahead and jump into agenda item 5 for the day, Utah School for the Deaf and Blind. And we're going to begin with public comment. Before we get there, let's do a disclaimer here. Public comments are limited to 2 minutes per person. A comment can express support or dissent for regulatory action. Individuals should not use public comment to complain about personnel issues or attack or defame an individual. Speakers making a highly detailed or complex comment should also consider providing a written outline for their words to the board. Please remember that children may hear your comments. Be thoughtful and professional, and keep your comments appropriate for a general audience. If you have material with explicit language or content, submit such material in writing to the board@schools.utah.gov. So to begin today, let's go ahead and invite Sarah Williams to the podium. We have some in person and some online, and we'll go through the in person to begin with. So Sarah, yes. Oh, there is no podium. The table. You got it.
Push the button that looks like a person.
Okay, testing. Great.
You got it.
Well, good afternoon, board members. My name is Sarah Williams, and for the past 9 months, I've been working with an awesome coalition to bring action item 6.7 to you today. So when you pick up Utah's Model Language and Communication Plan, LCP, you are looking at the culmination of years of work by parents, professionals, and experts across the country. And that is because Utah's model builds off of the success of other states. As we built this here, we've directly consulted with 13 of the 15 states that currently require LCPs. So today, I hope that you will choose to inherit that goodness for our deaf, deafblind, and hard of hearing students here in Utah. And as you consider this pilot, I ask that you preserve 3 principles that have guided this proposal from the beginning. So first, language and communication plans are district-owned tools. Don't be fooled because this is coming to you via the USDB board meeting today. When a district is the child's LEA, it is ultimately responsible for providing FAPE, and the plan is designed to support districts in that. USDB's expertise is invaluable. I'm so grateful for them. I just don't want the plan to become a form that USDB or in any single team member completes for everyone else. Its purpose is to bring the entire team, including parents, to a shared understanding of the student's needs through a practical, accessible tool that can be implemented daily. Second, our intent has always been to make these LCPs a requirement, not just optional or guidance. So to that end, I encourage the board to structure this pilot seriously, provide meaningful training for districts, encourage data collection, transparent data collection, and establish a timeline for reviewing results so that this pilot remains a pilot with a clear path forward, not just an endless experiment. Third, these LCPs ultimately also belong in 504 plans. The federal access rights that they're founded upon apply to kids on 504s and IEPs. So in closing, I think from the other parents you'll hear from today, you'll understand why families are fighting so hard for these language and communication plans here in Utah. And I simply ask that with this pilot, you protect the principles that made them worth fighting for in the first place. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, I have Katie Crockett. It says Zoom or in person. There we are. Perfect. And it is ready we'll get you ready to go.
All right. I am a parent and a teacher in the Granite School District. I'm thankful for Christina Boges as our board member. I'm a parent of hard of hearing children, and my youngest son, Owen, has had hearing loss since birth. He attended all USDB that they offered up until through preschool. They did a combination of ASL and listening and speaking. And when he was ready for kindergarten, we decided to mainstream him into the Granite District. The kindergarten open arms welcomed him, tried to meet his needs. But unfortunately, at an IEP meeting, the district was there and they came in and tried to take away his interpreter. They tried to take away his interpreter to collect data and to decide whether or not he needed it or not, leaving him without those necessary supports of that critical language development. They had no plan to accommodate him in any other ways. And he was going to miss out on instruction in that communication with peers. Ultimately, we took quick action to prevent this from happening. But we worry about the future, and we worry about other families in similar situations. Parents and districts need more support. The language and communication plan was created for my son. Kids just like Owen, who, no fault of their own, have hearing loss and need help navigating and figuring out the supports necessary. The language and communication plan would provide more thoughtful process, correct data collection before removing supports, and full team collaboration. It would help the team understand the why of his IEP, what is in his IEP. Instead of a checkbox, it would be that plan clear to all members. So I am here today to ask the state board to vote yes to adopt this language and communication plan. Please collect good data to show the value and worth this is, because parents, teachers, and children need this listening and communication plan. And this is only the first step, but this needs to be integrated into that IEP permanently so children and parents can receive the support they've been missing. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Katie Terry. We have 3 Katies today, by the way. I just want to point that out.
Good afternoon. My name is Katie Terry. My family and I live in the avenues of Salt Lake City, so in Salt Lake County. I'm the mother of 6 children who all passed the newborn hearing screening, but of those, 3 are hard of hearing deaf. Lottie, who's here today, was attending Wasatch Elementary School, which we love, when somebody came into the kindergartners and did hearing testing. She naturally failed, and we were sent to the district. I just want to point out, think back to COVID and when everyone was wearing a mask, when Zoom was taking off, but not many of us were comfortable with it, and it can be extremely difficult to understand what people are saying. Imagine that is your life, and that you've never known any different. And you're just going about the world half understanding what's going on in the world around you. When you're trying to learn how to read, when you can't see somebody's face, to make correct vowel placements or to hear consonants. And that's what hearing loss looks like. Profound, mild, all of it. I'm forever grateful to those at the school for doing so much to help Lottie be successful. However, emotionally, she suffered greatly, and part of that was that her device in the classroom, which was a microphone for the teacher to wear, almost never worked. And I was in there myself repairing it to her Bluetooth hearing aids. And it came across as an inconvenience, a budget problem, and something to apologize for instead of simply just trying to change out devices, which the district audiologist refused to do for me. I've never considered homeschooling before, and I haven't since, because Lottie is so successful at the School for the Deaf now. Thank you.
Thank you. And is Lottie going to speak to us?
She is.
All right. Lottie Terry, please.
Hi, my name is Lottie. I go to JMS. That's the school for the deaf. Before I went there, I went to the hearing school because we did not know I had a hard time hearing. After I got hearing aids, I started to notice there was a lot of things I had been missing. I did not like the microphone my teacher had to wear for me. I was the only one who needed it. Sometimes it did not work, and when it did, I could hear my teacher talking to others when I was trying to do my work. I love my school now because I understand ASL better than English, so I don't feel lost all the time. Every year I've been to JMS, friends have decided to go to the hearing school. I hope they have a better time than I did. Please help make changes to help us learn. Thank you.
Okay, let's see you vote against that. Thank you, Lottie. Next, we have Katie Larson on Zoom. Katie, are you with us?
Hi, can you hear me?
We can hear you, yes.
Great, great. There's good. Okay. Hi, yes, I am the third key of the luncheon and after today. I also wanted to just speak on behalf of the Language and Communication Plan. I have a son, Callan, who just graduated from Canyon View High School in Cedar City, Utah. He is fully deaf and relies full-time on ASL to communicate. And I just want to share a tiny bit of Callan's experience. He actually had a really great experience in elementary school. In middle school, I kind of did a great stint on homeschool because that was my common years. And then once we got to high school, we really started into our challenges with finding support services for him, having school lessons for him in the ways that he needed. And when I was looking through my information to prepare this, I found a letter that his fourth grade teacher had written, and I just wanted to share a little bit of that. It says, having Callan in our classroom enriched our learning community in numerous ways. His unique perspective and experiences broadened discussions, challenged assumptions, and encouraged empathy among his peers. Callan's presence encouraged diversity in thought and promoted a culture of acceptance and mutual respect among students. Considering that concept of equal access to education, it's critical to recognize that learning does not solely occur in the confines of the classroom. And that's where we really struggled with Callan when we got to high school. He had a really hard time with safety issues. The school district and the USDB refused to provide an interpreter for him during lunch. So he was just kind of sitting down with safety. I just want to point out how our deaf and hearing students are such a blessing in our community and our classrooms. And I wanted to be viewed that way instead of as a burden. And I feel that the Language and Communication Fund really support our teachers and our administration in building and empowering those students in themselves so that we can recognize the blessing that they are to us. And thanks so much for your time.
Thank you. And Sybil, you'll reach out. Thank you. Next, we have Janice Winder. Janice, are you with us?
I am.
Okay, we've got 2 minutes. Go ahead when you're ready.
Okay, my name is Janice Winder. I am an Iron County resident and the mother of a deaf student, Amelia. I'm also one of the parents that initially reached out to Senator Vickers. Amelia is deaf with cochlear implants and is on the autism spectrum and an incoming freshman to Canyon View High School. For the last decade, I've had to fight to have Amelia supported in her preferred means of communication every year. From the beginning, we have faced barriers, including hesitance to enroll her in schools because they had never had someone like her at their school. Our IEP meetings have been a revolving door of special educators, teachers, and providers who have not all understood her needs. USDB and my district have often argued over available services and shifted accountability, which has left Amelia caught in the middle and her services often falling through the cracks. We've tried a lot of different arrangements in order to best support her, but I have still vehemently had to defend our decisions about her communication needs and modalities every year. It is only when we insisted on one-on-one ASL interpreter services alongside pull-out sessions with a teacher of the deaf, Amelia truly began to thrive. It is perpetually intimidating to walk into an IEP meeting with 10 to 15 educators and then tell them, this is the plan and what you're going to do. This LCP plan helps parents and students know that their opinions, experiences, and desires are not only being heard, but met, supported, and as well as providing clear channels of responsibility and accountability. This past school year, I used the LCP as an informal guide during our IEP meeting, and with the support of interpreters, aides, teachers, and Amelia herself advocating for the way she is comfortable communicating, every person that works with her has remarked how much happier, interactive, and successful she has been after it was implemented and honored and respected. This is the first year we haven't been asked to pick only a single modality of communication that is most important. This plan creates clear channels of communication and support for parents and students navigating their needs. I know that if we could have had this at the beginning of our journey, things would have been easier for Amelia and me. And I just want to say that every deaf child is different and their needs are different. But I really, really urge you to please support this LCP.
Thank you. Okay. That, I believe, is all that we have on our public comment list. So we appreciate those who have joined us in person and via Zoom. Let's continue forward to agenda item 6, and we'll turn it over to the chair of the USDB Standing Committee, Chair Wood. I just jumped over that, Darren. Sorry. I got to be home by 5:30 on Thursdays if you want me to function properly on Fridays. Okay. All right. So yeah, let's do 5.2, the monthly USDB budget update. And Deborah, we've got perfect.
Okay. Deborah Jacobson, Assistant Superintendent of Operations. This will be brief. As Deputy Jones mentioned yesterday in board meeting, we are in the middle of closeout. We don't have any hard, fast numbers right now. We are just finishing up. We should have those by the end of next week. So far, things are looking good. We do have final closing entries that have to happen next week. So that's when we'll probably know. We are kind of dancing on the line on whether or not we're going to go into the contingency or not. One day we're in the contingency, one day we have carry forward. So we're kind of in that. So I can't really attest to whether or not USDB could cover all of their obligations. But they have made huge strides this year. So I do want to recognize that. And with that, the other activities that we're doing right now is finishing the closeout of their old fund, 9215, and moving all assets over to USBE's fund. So those are activities going on as well. And we're also starting the analysis on their fees, on whether or not we are recovering all cost for outreach. So that will be coming for sure in the September board meeting. We'll have those done for you. And with that, that's my report.
Any questions from board members? I'm not seeing any, but please keep us updated. Hopefully we don't have to dip into that contingency fund.
That's the goal.
That is the goal. Thank you. Okay, let's move to agenda item 5.3, our superintendent report. Darren, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Darren Nielsen, Superintendent of Utah Schools for the Deaf and the Blind. I'll just take a short time. I want to just update the board. In the backup for this attachment item, I've included a report. We won't get into that in detail, but I wanted to highlight this report connects to some work that we started way back in November. So in November of 2025, the Office of the Legislative Auditor General released an audit on Utah Schools for the Deaf and Blind, and in it included several recommendations, two of which we've been working on in this capacity. So the first one was recommendation 2.1, which said the Utah Schools for the Deaf and the Blind should identify benchmarks and report relevant comparisons of its assessment data. The second recommendation related to what we've been working on in this capacity is recommendation 2.2 from that audit. The Utah Schools for the Deaf and Blind should adopt educational benefit review process. So we established a cross-departmental data and reporting working group, included 18 USDB staff members, as well as some staff here at USBE. In January, that group met with the Utah State Board of Education's Technical Advisory Committee, and from that meeting, we extended and the Center for Assessment, which facilitates that meeting and is under contract with the Utah State Board of Education to provide consulting services on large-scale assessment and accountability, facilitated our group as we went forward. The report in the backup is a culmination of that work. I'm just going to highlight the recommendations that came from that we've begun as staff, we've begun taking steps towards completing or addressing. Recommendation 1 from the report was to partner with other state specialized schools to define benchmarks for proficiency and improve the available assessments of academic, social, and autonomy benchmarks for our students. Recommendation number 2, build greater coherence of academic assessments across grades, learner profiles, and users. Recommendation number 3, increase participation in appropriate statewide academic assessments. Recommendation number 4, add a common approach to measuring the autonomy and social benchmarks for use by school leadership and IEP teams. And then number 5, establish a committee to review recommended assessments for the elimination and training for staff about which assessments are not required. So the staff met for a number of months, and really the primary focus of that work was to conduct an assessment audit of all the assessments that any student that attends a campus program for the Utah Schools for the Deaf and the Blind would experience, to examine how are those results used. Are there duplicate assessments or measurement tools that we're using to get to the same point? And the report, again, in the backup is a culmination of that work, which was really beneficial for us. It'd be nice if every LE in the state had the resources and priority to complete an assessment audit of their LEA. So we're moving forward with that. It includes an instructional vision that we developed, and then you heard me mention the term learner profiles. In a neighborhood school, we typically use grade level to determine, to classify students. Are you on grade level? Did you complete the 3rd grade standards, the 4th grade standards, and so forth? And you'll see in this report that for the students we serve through a specialized school placement, who, for the majority of them, when they come to our school, it's because their placement in a less restrictive environment was not being successful, that it's actually using grade level determination to try to determine accountability metrics is not an effective way to do that, because so many of our students are below grade level using that definition. So we'll be advancing, and you'll hear more about these learner profiles that we've worked through internally and with the Center for Assessment. We're excited, though, about this step, this benchmark that we've hit in our journey of developing a strategic plan for the Utah Schools for the Deaf and Blind and improving, our instructional practices. So I'll conclude my comments at that point.
I don't see any lights or questions for you, Superintendent. So, okay. You have reports for us? Okay. Susan, you can kick us off. Perfect.
Sure.
Mine will be brief as well. I wanted to tell you about, I'll give more information at the standing committee meeting on Tuesday, but I wanted to give you a program, just overview of our summer camps that we had this last summer, which is still kind of summer, but our summer camps have now concluded because we start school next week. So we had an orientation mobility camp that was June 8th through the 12th. And that was students spending a week building confidence and traveling through the community using UTA buses, tracks, and Front Runner. They visited places like Salt Lake Community College, DSBVI, Salt Lake City Animal Service, and our USDB Ogden campus. And they had to plan the routes. They had to execute the routes. And we had 2 O&Ms that were in charge of that camp. We had 8 students that registered for that camp, and we had 8 students that attended that camp. So we felt like that was good. Sometimes we have more students that register than actually come because we know things happen. We also had a virtual SNAP circuit camp, and this was one that I was not as familiar with, so I was happy when I heard about what had happened. This was June 15th through the 19th, and the synopsis of this camp was that students learned the basics of electricity and engineering by completing SNAP circuit projects from home virtually, which was fun. We had 10 students registered, and we had 9 that completed the course. And then we had our Camp Abilities Utah, which was on our Ogden campus, and that was we had students that were able to stay on campus, and then we had students that were able to just attend the day, and parents were able to decide how that worked. They learned a number of different sports. We had judo, we had rock climbing, we had bowling, miniature golf, swimming, and other outdoor activities. We had 21 overnight registered and 1 day student. We actually had 15 overnight and then 1 day camp student. We had our STEM camp on June 30th through July 1st, and this was a STEM activity camp. And that was a several day camp too. It was 3 days, and we had 7 registered and 7 attend. And then we had our Ogden cooking camp through July 8th through the 10th. And then we also, and that was ages 14 and 19, and we had 7 register and 5 attended. We also had an assistive technology camp, and we had, and that was several days, and that was also a virtual camp and a camp that was on campus as well. And we had 5 students to register and 3 attended. And then we had an art camp in Springville through July 20th through the 22nd. And that was 3 days, at actually 3 different locations, giving students across the state the opportunity to participate. And we had 19 registered and 17 attended. And then we had a Springville cooking camp, July 28th and 30th. And that was actually a younger age, from ages 8 to 12, because we're wanting to make sure that families have access, students have access, even when they're the lower ages or the younger ages. We had 8 students register and 7. Altogether, we had 83 students that attended the camps, and so we felt good about that. And again, we had eight camps. One of the things that we tried to do was to make sure that we were holding camps across the Wasatch Front, and we are trying to make things that are more available to rural students, because we realize that from different stakeholders and families, we realize that that's an issue. Sometimes that's difficult to plan logistically and have it manned and have the facilities that we need to. But I just wanted to let you know that, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Assistant Superintendent Tanner. Sorry, I didn't use professional with Susan. I'm not picking favorites here. Sorry. Michelle, go ahead. There. Now we're back on track.
Yes. We also had we had a lot of summer camps that you will see in a newsletter that you should expect to receive on Monday, with a lot of pictures and a lot of camps, because we were able to do quite a number of camps. And thank you for supporting us to be able to get that done. And hopefully you can read about the details and see all the cute pictures and all the things that they've done. On Tuesday, when we have the USDB Standing Committee, those of you that attend that or watch it will have the pleasure of listening to one of the camps, which is our Tall Ship camp, which I won't destroy their thunder. It was pretty amazing. And struggle and overcoming and enjoying it. How's that? Sleeping, in strange quarters. So anyway, it was all great, and they've had a good time, and hopefully you'll have the opportunity to read those. We are actively now in the process of getting school set up. So the classrooms are getting all reorganized. There's teachers, even though we only do a 183-day contract, you know how teachers are, they've been showing up all summer. And they've been getting their classrooms ready. There's nothing about this one-day thing. I don't know what that is, but they're there. They're setting it up. They're getting it ready. Our facility staff have been phenomenal in making sure the rooms are cleaned and ready. We are actively trying to get our curriculum out. We've had a delay in the curriculum, so we've got some that are not here yet, but we've got our ERC director. Her name is Sarah Lovato. She is doing a lot of legwork. She intends to get our curriculum to the campus, at Salt Lake campus, and then hopefully get the others out there, and that we should have access, hopefully, to digital content for a bit so we can get our curriculum delivered. We've got a few things that are back ordered that we're waiting on. We also are working on finalizing schedules for students as we've gotten the schedules between our campus, and anytime we have an opportunity to mainstream, we have to jive those. It takes a lot of planning. We're working on that. On Monday is our back to school kickoff. The teachers are back, and that's the fun day. So we get to welcome them back, spend some time with them, and then JMS, our Salt Lake campus, starts on the 12th. And we've got other campuses starting the following week. So ADS starts next Monday, and Ogden campus starts on Tuesday the 18th. So lots to do, lots to get done, and we're pretty excited that the kids are coming back. It's been a summer of work and coming into the office and working from home. The other day I walked in, and I walked in the OEC, and there was a basketball camp going on. Literally paused and was tearing up because it's all about the kids, and there they were. And there they were. Everything we go through, everything we do here in this room and in the classroom helps for them to be successful, and it'll fill my bucket every time. So we're glad that they are back.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions? I don't see any lights on or hands raised, so thank you to both of you. We're excited for a new school year, all the challenges that come with it. So good luck. Superintendent Nielsen, anything else? Okay. Well, with that, we will move forward to agenda item 6, the USDB Standing Committee Report, and we'll turn it over to Chair Wood.
Thank you, Chair. We'll begin with item 6.3. The motion for the board is that the board approve R277-802 USDB Enrichment Program Draft 3 on second and final reading.
Okay, the motion before the board is that the board approve R277-802 USDB Enrichment Program Draft 3 on second and final reading. Seeing no, there we go, seeing no lights, let's go ahead and vote. Member Kelly?
Board Member Kelly is a yes.
Member, who else? Member Lear? Okay. Member Lear, we see you, we don't hear you.
I said I was a yes.
Okay.
Now can you hear?
Yep, we got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
That passes unanimously. Thank you. Back to you, Chair Wood.
Thank you. Item 6.4, fiscal year 2027 USB enrichment budget. I move that the board approve the fiscal year 27 USB enrichment budget recommended by the staff.
The motion out of committee is that the board approve the FY27 USB enrichment budget recommended by the staff. We've got a question from Member Carey.
Thank you. And this can either go to Vice Chair Wood or staff, but I see the proposed budget, but typically we see the previous allocation and the upcoming allocation. Is there a document that shows both of those as a side-by-side through the chair?
Not sure who would like to tackle that one, if anybody.
I'm not sure exactly what you're asking. Can you clarify?
To me, yeah. So if you go into backup, I see a document, FY26 allocation, the 1,208,000. But what I'm looking for is what was last year's allocation for those same buckets. Like usually we do that side by side so we can do a quick assessment of what's going up, what's going down. This standing alone provides little direction guidance other than these are the numbers. So that would be my question, and through the chair.
Superintendent Nielsen, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to try to answer that. The FY26 allocation is displayed there because that's a number that we know. This is reminder that comes from the this comes from the permanent trust funds. At the time of this meeting, and even to this date, I haven't heard from Superintendent Jacobson what the FY27 allocation will be. Typically, that amount will go up year over year. So we've allowed a budget that stays under the previous year's allocation, and it's likely, if not inevitable, that this board will see an additional request come through once we have the FY27 allocations awarded to us.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. That's helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. And question, Superintendent, if I could, these ones that are blank here, are they just unknown? Are we not doing those this year? Or are they free programs?
Yeah, so
there
the
such a thing?
GeoNote and USB music programming, there's zero allocated for those on either of these budgets. And so they'll be, I can't remember, Superintendent Patton, if we discontinued those or we found another source for funding those.
We discontinued those programs.
Okay.
So, but they were on the original. The reason they are there, they were on the original that was submitted last spring. So, but those will, when we finalize from the carry forward amount, those will be eliminated from from the sheets themselves.
And I'm assuming that's the same with the blind hockey program?
Yes, that is. However, it's a little it's a little challenging because we'll find out how much carry forward we have, and then we will need to submit a new budget to the advisory council that will then come to the standing committee and the board to approve the amount of money for carry forward funds. The blind hockey, again, this was a suggestion from the advisory council that was on that. So the blind hockey program may still be on there, but the advisory council with their suggestion, they wanted to take that off at this time and then relook at that when we had a set amount for the carry forward that was coming through.
Okay. And for my personal interest, before you leave today, you need to explain to me what blind hockey looks like, because I am trying to picture it and I cannot. So,
It is big,
Yeah.
and it's very, very popular, and it was something
bet.
that was popular amongst stakeholders and parents. So
Okay. Yeah, we'll connect. Okay. With that, let me restate the motion here, and that is that the board approve the FY27 USB enrichment budget recommended by the staff. Let's go ahead and vote. Oh, hold on, pause. Member Davis, go ahead.
Never mind. I would just direct the public back to past meetings again, just for another reiteration of why the discrepancy between the advisory board recommendations and the staff recommendations.
Okay, consider them directed. Let's go ahead and vote.
I'm a yes, Chair Hymas.
Thank you, Member Lear. Member Kelly?
Yes.
Thank you. That passes unanimously. Back to you, Chair Wood.
Thank you. Item 6.5 USDB fiscal needs. The committee moved that the board move this recommendation to the Finance Committee.
Okay, the motion that came out of committee is that the board move this recommendation to the Finance Committee. I do want to inform the board, typically when it comes from the USDB committee or what's the other one that Rod chairs, audit, thank you. It doesn't come before here. We're going to keep this as an action item because it was on here, but typically is just assigned. And so in future meetings, we won't have to go over that. But because it is before us, the motion is that the board move this recommendation to the Finance Committee. Remember, Carrie? This is 6.5 USDB fiscal needs. So it's going through that process of coming from the USDB committee. They want to put it before the board. It's going to go through it's going to be looked at in the finance committee.
Can I just ask one question,
Yep.
just because and that is on page 2. It says we are requesting $2,718,766 in funding to secure materials, equipment, and dedicated personnel. When I look at what you're requesting those funds for, it seems lower than the objects and people you're seeking to acquire. So do you have an itemized breakdown just by bucket of how much you're looking to secure for materials, how much you're looking to secure for equipment, and how much you're looking for to secure dedicated personnel?
I'm going to turn over to Superintendent Nielsen, and I will also say this will be discussed and fleshed out in finance. This is part of the process.
Understood. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chair, the itemized, there should be an itemized attachment that's uploaded as a secure document because it includes items related to school safety. There's some prohibitions on making some of that information public. So we do have an itemized amount. I'm hopeful it's accessible to board members, not to the public, that details the dollar amounts. We've worked with the finance team. We've also gotten quotes from external vendors related to some of the security needs that we have, and hopefully you'll be able to see those.
And Chair, I know that this is coming up to the committee, but my question is on some of those security needs. It was my understanding the state was providing funding for those, and my question really goes to, did USDB receive the funding to which it's entitled from the State Security Task Force for some of these items? And I'm happy to talk to you offline as well because I understand it deals with security, but that would be my question. Thank you, Chair.
Okay.
And I'll follow up with Darren offline.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sounds like that'd be a better conversation offline. Thank you.
Can I clarify? Did you see the USDB fiscal need details on the agenda
The one, yeah.
that you were
I
asking for?
think-
Did you find it?
Yeah, it wasn't in my printed packet, but Member Britton has it.
Oh, because okay.
So thank you.
Okay. So the motion is that the board move this recommendation to the finance committee. Let's go ahead and vote. Member Lear?
Aye.
Thank you. Member Kelly?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, that passes unanimously. Back to you, Chair Wood.
Thank you. Item 6.6, 8.30 Educational Benefit Review Policy. I move that the board approve the Educational Benefit Review Policy Draft 1 on second and final reading.
Okay, the motion before the board is that the board approve the Educational Benefit Review Policy, Draft 1, on second and final reading. I'm not seeing any lights on this, so let's vote. Member Lear?
Yes.
Thank you. Member Kelly?
Yes.
Thank you. That passes unanimously. Back to you, Chair Wood.
Thank you. Item 6.7 Language and Communications Plan. I move that the board approve a voluntary LEA pilot for developing model materials and implementing a language and communication plan as a component in individual education programs, IEPs for deaf, deafblind, and hard of hearing students, including a feedback and evaluation component from participants.
Okay. The motion is that the board approve a voluntary LEA pilot for developing model materials and implementing a language and communication plan as a component in individual education programs for deaf, deafblind, and hard of hearing students, including a feedback and evaluation component from participants. I've got Vice Chair Bollinger.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate all the public comment that's been provided on this, as well as all of the parents reaching out. I know as a special educator myself, parents they're very passionate about making sure their students get services, as they should be, right? And it is a partnership between them. I can see that there's been a lot of work that goes into this, the work for the communication plans. It's interesting though, we got a motion yesterday from USIP or some recommendations yesterday from UC basically saying, hey, we need to reduce the burden of paperwork. And now today we're getting hey, let's request some additional paperwork. And so that's where, because I know that in communication plans with IEP students, there's a whole section on communication that not as detailed as this, right? So I can see that they're using this as a framework could be. So I'm going to support the pilot because it is voluntary, but I am concerned about the amount of paperwork that we put on special educators. So just wanted to say thank you for the work. I'm excited to see how this goes and how it impacts student outcomes, but just wanted to also express my concerns about additional requirements in the future. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Vice Chair Wood?
Yeah, I just want to speak to that. And that's one of the reasons why we went straight to a pilot and with the feedback and the evaluation component, because we feel like maybe there's some duplication, maybe there's some simplification that we can use. So it's a little bit of a practice time to figure out what is the best to work for the needs of our students, but what can we simplify also.
All right, so the motion is that the board approve a voluntary LEA pilot for developing model materials and implementing a language and communication plan as a component in individual education programs for deaf, deafblind, and hard of hearing students, including a feedback and evaluation component from participants. Let's go ahead and vote. Member Lear?
Yes.
Thank you. Member Kelly?
Yes.
Thank you. That passes unanimously. Back to you, Chair Wood.
Thank you, Chair. That concludes our items from item 6. We'll move to item 7. The facilities work group met 4 times during the summer. We focused on the north campuses of Ogden and Salt Lake, and then we focused also on the campuses in the south, Springville and Washington. We did a tour of the St. George land there in congruence with our URSA trip. Many of us were already down there, so we didn't add any extra burden to the board. We were already in Cedar City, so we took a short drive down to St. George and visited that property. Out of that, we came with a motion that the board approve the USDB committee's recommendations based on the report from the USDB Facilities Working Group.
Okay. The motion that came from committee is that the board approve the USDB committee's recommendations based on the report from the USDB Facilities Working Group.
And in that, Chair, I have an additional motion to add. About 2 or 3 days after the facilities group made their recommendation, we held this special meeting so that the facility group recommendations could go to our standing committee. The standing committee met, discussed, made some tweaks to the recommendations, approved those to come to the board, and a couple of days later, we got notice that there was a property available for purchase adjacent to the JMS property. And so I actually, with Superintendent Nilsson, we convened an emergency meeting with the legislative fiscal analysts, because one of the issues that we've had with USDB is when the board makes a decision and then all of a sudden we switch it up. And so we met with Daryl Hunting from DFCM. We talked about this property. There's actually a map of it in your backup if there's a way to bring that up so we can discuss it. The motion would be that in addition, that the board recommends that DFCM consider the purchase of 1643 Woodland Avenue and whether it aligns with the USDB long-term facilities plan and prioritizes our student needs. So I would need a second to that.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Do you want to speak to that?
Yeah. So if we can, in the backup under item 7, there's a map. It is not. It is not. Okay, sorry.
I thought they were pulling it up.
No, yes, the board recommends that DFCM consider the purchase of 1643 Woodland Avenue and whether it aligns with the USDB long-term facilities plan and prioritizes our student needs.
Who's driving this thing? Take that paperwork. Take that paperwork to whoever's drafting.
While that's being up, I will speak to this. So this property was approved by the board for purchase a number of years ago. We're figuring it's at least over 8, maybe 10. In the middle of that process, the buyer chose to take a cash purchase from another member, and we lost the ability to purchase that. It is not in a location of the plans that are in the recommendations that the facilities group has made, but it is an interesting property because at the easement, the owners have to go through USDB property to get to their property. And so DFCM would like to look at it to see if it's worth purchasing, but they will not move forward without the approval of this board. So I'm hoping that the picture will come up so you can look at it. It is kind of a distraction, honestly, because it doesn't fit within the recommendations that we've made. It's not something we had been pursuing, but it came, the owner came and gave USDB the first rights to purchase. And so this would simply allow DFCM to move forward to see if it's something that they want to continue doing. At one time it was important to them. Is it still important to them? Is it something we want to do?
So our vote today, if it does pass, if it doesn't pass, then we're saying, no, don't even go look at it. We're not interested at all.
Correct.
If it does pass, we're not finalizing anything. We're just saying, yeah, go look at it. See if it meets requirements.
Yes.
Okay. We're still working on that motion.
No, that's it. That's the motion. There is a, yeah, the price tag is 1.3 million.
And the map is
In there. I was hoping someone
it's in
would.
the backup somewhere. It's in
It's under 7.
working group. As we're looking, Member Davis, do you want to make a comment? Are you question, comment, or do you want to wait for? I don't know what. Let me get your mic on, and then you can just. There you go.
I think that we should at least just have DFCM look at this to see if it's an option that we want to consider. Because one of the options we wanted to consider, one of the properties now we can't buy, so we are considering another option that was a little less ideal than the first option. And I think information is important. And if this slows us down a bit to give us a better option long term, then I think it's at least worth the exploration, and this vote is for exploration. It is not for a purchase.
I will say I don't know if you've been able to access the map. It is sandwiched between an elementary school and a preschool. There and then, or am I looking at a different location here?
Here we go.
Why are
All
there-
right. So,
Why are there two different maps?
because that's the Washington property. Okay, so here's JMS. I want to talk to you about acquired number 1 is the little white house. This little white house was meant for, in 2023, 2024, they were going to build a high school campus on there. And that fell through when all the information came forward about the budget and everything. It now has mold growing in it and weeds growing in the basement. There's a nice garden in the bottom. It's kind of a scary place. So that will be gone. Then we did a scenario 3, which requires the purchase of acquired number 2. There's 2 houses in between that. Scenario number 3 required that all 3 houses be purchased in order to enlarge the whole campus. We've acquired number 2. The legislature provided money last session for the purchase of these 3 properties. Acquired number 2, 1 and 3 do not want to sell. They are not interested. One said stop calling. So that's not an option for us. Then this available house is up in that corner. And that's where we're talking about is this 1643 East Woodland Avenue. So hopefully that clarifies. And as with everything with USDB, it's as clear as mud.
Go ahead, Member Carey.
The buildings to the right of the square marked available, what are those buildings? Does that make sense? The 3100, 1685, 3102? They're just homes, the residential homes? Okay, thank you.
All right. Board members, we're going to take a 5-minute break. Okay? You don't need a light. We're going to take a 5-minute break. Board members, thank you for your patience. Let's jump back into this. We have the motion before us. I'd love to jump into a vote if we can. The motion is that the board recommend that DFCM consider the purchase of adjacent property and whether it aligns with the USDB long-term facilities plan and prioritizes our student needs.
Chair, this would be an amendment.
This would be an amendment. Let's vote on that then. This is the amendment, and hopefully this would be, or maybe this would be a substitute motion. I don't know.
This is a part. It's an amendment to the main motion, and then we'll go
To
back
the
and
main.
vote on the recommendations as a whole.
Okay, yeah, you're right. You're right. Okay, so this is an amendment. Let's go ahead and vote on this. Member Lear?
Yes.
Thank you. Member Kelly?
Yes.
Thank you. So that passes unanimously. That takes us back to our main motion, which is that the board approve, or no. Is that it? That the board approve the USDB committee's recommendations as amended based on the report from the USDB Facilities Working Group. And I'm not seeing any additional lights on that either, so let's go ahead and vote on that. And Member Lear?
Yes.
Thank you. Member Kelly?
Yes.
Thank you. That passes unanimously. We got a unanimous vote and an education on that. So thank you. Back to you, Chair Wood.
That concludes our work. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And that will conclude our USDB portion of this agenda. Thank you, Michelle, Susan, Darren. Thank you so much for your work and all of your staff. We appreciate it. With that, board members, because of our unfinished business section that rolled over from yesterday, we're going to move. We still want to move the study session to the end. So we want to jump into our unfinished business. We're going to rotate and put 8 at the end of everything. So we're going to jump right to 9 and address yesterday's agenda items that we postponed. Beginning with, there's a couple other items. I'm not sure if they're on this yet. There were a couple. Right. But there was a thing or two that came out of some committees. That's what's not on here. We need to make sure so let's jump into the legislative portion as you guys, if you guys can look and remind us what came out of committee for today. So 2 were going to committee. I think there was one, maybe it was in finance that was coming back today. 2 committee. So yeah, okay. Let's make sure we're good then. If we don't have them, great. That's best, right? But with this, let's go into the agenda item 10.2 from yesterday. This is requests for statutory changes. And so do we need teed up for this? Again, this is general session legislative preparation, requests for statutory changes. Remember that 10.1 was a report that we received. We did 10.4 at the beginning. That was an overarching. We had a couple motions that came out of there. Now we're looking at requests, specific requests for statutory changes. Okay. Vice Chair Wood, go ahead.
Yeah, board, I would like to recommend that we make a statutory request to amend 53E-4-2025A and B by striking 90 days and inserting 60 days. We're trying to.
Okay, so there is a motion to request a statutory change to, I know I'm not going to get that, essentially change the 90-day public comment period to 60-day.
Yes, I sent it to Elise, but I don't know if
We'll
it
just
made
wait a
it to this
second to get
document.
that up. As that's coming, do we have a second? We've got a second. Do you want to speak to that? Well, that's...
This is kind of a compromise. When we brought forward the standards process, we put 45 days, and I know that there was some concern that we might be cutting short the amount of input that we might get. So this is a compromise from our 45 to a 60-day period. We just had a report back from I think it was our financial literacy that was out for 30 days and got 553 reports back. So people fill in the time that they have. And so but this is a statutory change that's required to change from the 90 days if we want to put that into our standards process. So that would be my recommendation.
If I could ask a question to Elise, who's the one who works with legislators on this? Is that assigned out later, or is it just always you? And that's right, a new legislator. So maybe Molly, you could help out with this question, or maybe Elise. What are we going to say when they say, why would we do that? Why would we shorten the public's ability or time frame to make a comment? What's our response, or do you need time out if this motion if it fails? You don't have to come up with a response, right? So I'm kind of putting you on the spot, but if you have something, that'd be great.
Yeah, different agencies have different amounts of time, and there is no standard on that. I think and I think we mentioned it yesterday a couple of times, the speed at which things change and the amount of time that we have to get things out and done. When you think about a law that, passes during the session, and then the time that it takes to get things handled, and then we've got to make the rule, and then we've got to wait for the rule, and then we've got to wait for the funding. The timeline is just too long for things, whether they're rules or standards or what have you. As Vice Chair Wood said, people use the time they have. And it's not like things are going out in the mail and you wait for the mail and then you mail something back. Things are quick. And I think we've shown that we get quite a bit of feedback fairly quickly, and then it kind of peters off. And I think we're just in a different space and time where this is a more reasonable amount of time in order to keep business moving forward. They also they have their own timelines that are like this. So,
Thank you. Here's who I've got in line regarding this motion here. I've got Member Carey, Member Kelly online, and then Member Brenton. So, Member Carey, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I really appreciate the extra time. Board Member Wood said something that got me thinking. She's like, people will fill the time that they have. And so part of me thinks, if we didn't have any comments coming in, it's almost easier to say, reduce the time. But when we say people will fill the time that we give them, to me, that means there's demand. Like, there's demand for that time. So my question is, we're asking the people, the parents and those that don't generally have a seat at that table, to reduce the allotted time they have. Maybe Board Member Earl or someone else can tell me who else is cutting their time in this process to increase the ability that we have. So we're saying, well, we need to save time somewhere. Well, we're asking the parents to come up and cut their time. Where have we cut our time? Where have we cut the review committee time, the writing committee time? How much is everybody sacrificing to expedite this process? That would be my question, Chair.
Okay.
Again, I don't know who's best situated to answer that.
I don't know if we will get an answer. I don't know. You jumping on, Jenny?
Yeah, I don't know that. I don't consider it yes, there is some, how do we streamline it? How do we do that type of a thing, right? That was kind of the discussion. But I don't think it's an unreasonable, 60 days is an unreasonable time. 90 days does span a long time period. And it's been my experience that it's right at the first, just that again, that people are like, okay, you get this out, and then nothing for months. And then it's like, okay, if you didn't do this next week, you need to do this, right? Or get this out. You need to fill out the survey. I think 60 days isn't a reasonable, I think 60 days is a reasonable amount. I think we could do 90 days if that's what the board wanted to do, if we felt that's what needed to happen. But I think 60 days is a reasonable time for public. That's 2 months. The content's already written. We're not waiting for responses back. They just have to give feedback on that. So I don't know, and I'm probably not answering your question. If you're asking, I'd have to go back and see. We tried to make it so that there was adequate comments for board members and for feedback. So, and the other thing we did put into this was that the actual committee that's put together by the legislature with parents on it has more of an engagement process. So we have tried to create more engagement from parents, so to speak. So I don't know. I mean, if this doesn't pass, then fine with 90 days too. I just think it's I think once again it's you do it at the front, you do it at the end, and that middle part seems to get missed. So
Okay. Here's what's happened. I got lots of voices on different sides here. I've got people waiting in line to be called on, and then I've got Vice Chair Wood says I've got a response that I can give to Joe, and I know that you're going to have something. And I don't know if your questions are rhetorical or if we actually need the data. I mean, we don't even know if that data is available. So, yeah, trying to figure out what to do here. Leanne, go ahead and have a response here, and we'll keep going.
Thank you,
I just
Chair.
wanted to add in that we also put in there that during the comment period time for the board, that we can work with stakeholders, and that's an additional 30 days that stakeholders have not had before, because we've kind of had to hold it tight. It was only the board member time. So we're saying, no, during that board member time, you can go to the professionals. So that's an additional 30 days that hasn't been available. So in a way, we're not cutting very much because we're opening it up. It's not just the official comment period time.
Okay, follow up.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, and I do appreciate the extra time. I mean, it's substantially more than the 45 days. Again, my concern is we're looking to streamline, and we're trying to streamline on the people that have actually the least amount of time already. They don't see these standards. They're not working with the standards. And I understand that's why we're here, right? I mean, they're part of the groups that we represent, but I do think that 90 days accounts for just people being busy and getting their attention and getting their response. So I would speak against the reduction in time. Thank you. No pun intended there.
Member Kelly.
Yeah, I'm curious to know, I guess my question is to Board Member Wood on this motion, but when we were discussing this yesterday and it was 45 days, I thought it might be wise to say 45 school days. I know that may make it problematic for summertime, and so maybe we could put something in there, but if you did 45 school days, I know that Board Member Carey had mentioned a concern about over the Christmas break or fall break, spring break. It kind of, would really kind of cut out some of the time that people may have available to, give that public comment. But I think if, maybe a good compromise might be 45 school days, or 45 working days or weekdays. But I absolutely see the need to streamline and to speed up this process. I know from the classroom, it seems like it takes forever when these are, going through the process, and so you see the start of the process, and then it just seems like forever before you get the final product, and so I see the need to streamline it. But it's just a suggestion. I'm not, I'm not going to make any motion, but I think that might be a good compromise of 45 working days or school days. If Member Wood thinks that might help streamline and speed up the process.
Thank you. Member Brinton.
Going to speak to the motion, and we did put in there 60 instead of 45 that you maybe can't see, Cole, to kind of account for that. And the reason for this was not to cut out parent time, but in recognition of the fact that there's a big push right at the beginning, as Board Member Wood said, where we get lots of comment, and then at the end when we're like, oh my gosh, yeah, I forget, hurry, get your comments in this week if you haven't. I think we just need to do a better job of sending the word out to the stakeholders and to the parents, using our social media, using mediums to get things out to the school districts. I think that would be good from a PR standpoint, that parents can more readily find them and know that they're out for public comment.
Vice Chair Bollinger.
Thank you, Chair. I would also like to speak to the motion, and in response to Member Kelly's comment about 45 school days. I can definitely see some wisdom in that, but I will say that 60 days is similar to 45 school days. They're almost comparable. So I think that does address those concerns. I also understand that when surveys go out, people do often wait till last minute. I will tell you, even when we did our performance reviews, people were waiting till last minute. We were having to send out reminders and reminders. And I've been guilty of that even when we have opportunities to provide feedback on our standards. I often, because I am busy, I make sure I get it done, but it's often last minute. So I think that as many days as you want, you could make it 180 days. You're still going to get people that wait till last minute. My concern about 90 days is that is basically a half of a school year. And when we talk about standards and timing of standards, we work on just a calendar year. Schools do not. So if we were to be through a process and all of a sudden we're bound by that 90 days and now we're into March, then that doesn't even give us enough time to finish the standards for the next year. So we're actually pushing our standards back a whole nother school year for implementation. So I do think that this is a reasonable amount of time. In fact, I would like less. So I think this is a compromise, but I support the motion.
Thank you. And I do believe we're in the hypothetical here, right? We're just suggesting to legislators that they make this change. And then if it does go to 60 here, and if it does go to 60 in a legislator, we still have the ability to say, look, we want more time. We just can't ever say we want less time. So for me, usually it's inserting public comment, waiting for 83 days so that I can complain that they didn't take my public comment. That's how it runs with me. Okay. With that, let's go ahead. I was probably more snarky than I. The motion is that the board direct staff to work with legislators to amend 53E-4-202 paren 5 paren A and paren B by striking 90 days and inserting 60 days. Let's go ahead and put that to a vote. Member Lear? Member Kelly?
Yes.
Oh, thank you, Member Lear.
I'm a yes.
And Member Kelly, thank you. Okay. That passes 11 in favor, 3 opposed. Those opposed being Member Carey, Member Green, and Member Bogus. All right, Member Bogus, you're up.
Staff has a motion prepared. I move that the board direct staff to work with the legislator to amend the appropriate code lines to ensure that all CTE teachers, Apex Center educators, school social workers, and it's gone. School social workers, leadership in charter schools, SLPs, and audiologists are required to obtain a license through USBE.
Okay, the motion's before us, and it's been stated. Do we have a second? We have a second.
Second.
You want to speak to that, Member Bogus?
Yeah, I think we've had so many conversations about the problems that exist when a license is not present. Everything from the struggles with the custodial staff that move from district to district to district and cause the same problems over and over again. The same happens in all of these areas. And in particular, these individuals, should they do something that is in violation of our standards, they would not be held accountable for violating our standards, not our educator standards, which every one of these people would fall under, or our licensing standards. And we cannot track ethical violations without a license to tie it to. And Utah is one, and when I say one of, I say that because I don't want to be exclusionary. We are the easiest state in which to obtain a license, in my opinion. I have licenses in 7 states now, and I've never had it be easier than it is in Utah. To obtain an LEA-specific license is not difficult, and every one of these individuals could obtain one of those in the areas that they need. And the others we've already had, and I think we just need to bring them back so that we can track those violations and bring them accountable to our educator standards. So, thank you.
Member Davis?
Well, I was in queue for a different one, but on this one, I don't know if there's a way to amend, so I'll speak out louder and then turn my light off and think. But I 100% agree with what's being said. I don't know that it's going to be realistic to have all of these people relicense, but I'm wondering, the only people in this list I think that may not have a license are CTE teachers and Apex Center educators. I'm wondering if what we could do is request that those at least are hired on an LEA specific license, and then that the others, because as we saw yesterday with Member Carey's motion, they are subject to license discipline and flags or suspensions and things, but somehow there has to be a way for Doppel's disciplinary actions to be in Cactus or to be recorded and tracked in what we're doing. So that may be more feasible than requiring everybody to relicense through USBE instead of through Doppel. I'm just thinking out loud, but I'm not sure how to format that, but it might be easier to get through than having everyone relicense.
Is there a question? Well, if you have, if we have an amendment, great. But yeah, go ahead.
Or no, Executive Coordinator Height. It could probably tell me I'm wrong, but I do believe the only way for USBE to track ethical violations and for those to be searchable in our database is not to set up an interface or an API. It would be to actually create a license, and it wouldn't have to be difficult. LEA-specific licenses are not difficult to obtain, and that would put them under the USBE and under our authority. And it would also, I mean, just as an example, we have public ed administrators that have lost their license and then gone on to work in charter schools. And we also have charter school administrators that did not have a license and then have jumped state lines. And so those are things that have really happened, and these are things that are important, that we track these things to the level that we are able to track them. And I think it's important. This is not something difficult. It's something that's free. Nobody charges a dime in this state to obtain a license, and all of that is bared by the taxpayer. And I think that's unfortunate, but nevertheless, it's the truth of the situation. And so I don't think, and Executive Coordinator Height can tell me I'm wrong, but I don't think that's a possibility to create an interface that would be searchable through USBE.
Member Carey.
Thank you, Chair. I have an amendment, and that would be after it says in charter schools, I would just add staff members, paren, as defined in R277-322, N paren. And that would be my amendment. And then with a second, I would speak to it.
Let's make sure we get the motion.
Oh, it's our code of conduct that we just passed, R277-322.
Okay, so the motion then is to add after in charter schools.
We're just inserting staff
members as defined in R277-322. Okay. Okay. It's been made, it's been seconded. Back to you, Member Carey.
Thank you. I think the objective is an admirable one. I mean, we want to track and keep track of the conduct of those individuals who have the greatest access to our students. I think, though, that by selectively saying, well, this group or that group, this body just voted yesterday to amend the code of conduct. Staff members is basically defined as those individuals in the school who have is it possible to call up the definition in the one that we passed yesterday?
Not just
Draft 5 from yesterday. Yeah, so basically, Chair, if I may, so staff member is defined in 322 as an employee, contractor, or volunteer with significant unsupervised access to students. And if I understand the essence of what the original maker of the motion, what Member Boggess is looking for, is to create an ability to protect our students. And again, instead of just cherry picking, well, this group or that group, staff member would allow us to do that for all employees and any contractor, volunteer, or employee with significant unsupervised access to students. And that's why I'm including that. Thank you.
Vice Chair Bollinger.
Thank you, Chair. I will actually speak against this motion. The way we define staff members would include employees, contractors, volunteers. This would include all of our student sweepers, employees. This would include any parent that wants to be a volunteer. In the state of Utah, we have over 36,000 teachers. Typically in a school district or in a local LEA, you're going to have 3 times as many staff members as you do teachers. So that means we would be adding over 108,000 individuals to our licensing program. And I understand the intent, because we've had a lot of these conversations on law and licensing, is we want to hold all of our employees accountable if they have disciplinary actions. I do not think that this is the way to address it. I think this goes way beyond the scope of what we're trying to address here. And so I would speak against this. Thank you.
Member Lear.
I'd also speak against this. And I want to clarify something. My understanding in 322, and I don't want to digress too much, but it's the only thing that significant unsupervised access modifies is volunteers. It doesn't modify employee or contractor or staff member. So I wanted to make sure that's clarified, but I also feel like this is a bridge too far. If Member Carey's intent is to kill this amendment, he did it, because I was almost with Christina on saying, yeah, maybe that's a good idea, but I cannot overload Cactus or LEA work with every single part-time employee, contractor, or volunteer with significant unsupervised access. So I would oppose the amendment. Thanks.
Member Davis.
I support the intent. I'm not sure that logistically a license is the right way to do it. Right is not a good word. But the most possible way, it seems to me like what we're trying to do is create some kind of a system where if a principal wants to hire someone who just got fired from the school 2 cities away, they can see there was a disciplinary action there. And there's got to be a way to figure out how to do that without licensing all of the staff. I'm not sure how that is, but there's got to be a way to do that.
Okay. Member Carey.
Yeah, I see Dr. Height here. I mean, maybe she's in a position just to illuminate us on the possibility or feasibility of what's being proposed. And I do know that I believe that when we go to hire an educator, the law requires one school to call the former school. I'd be curious to know, is there a similar requirement when you're hiring for individuals with close unsupervised access for non-educators. So to the extent that the body may find that useful, I would like to hear from Dr. Hyde in that regard, but I'll defer to the chair.
Superintendent Hart,
I just need the question repeated.
the question, word for word, please.
So the general gist of the question was word for word. So I know that the law requires if one educator leaves or terminated, the new one hiring has to call the old one. I was wondering, is there a similar requirement for non-educators who have close unsupervised contact with students? That was the gist.
Superintendent, let me get your light back on.
Is that an easy yes, no, or do you need an explanation? Anyone that works needs to do a background check. Go ahead. You can come on up.
Thank you, Chair. Malia Hyde, Executive Coordinator of Educator Licensing. Every single applicant that applies for a position, any position at an LEA that has previously worked at a different LEA, is that the hiring district or charter is required to check with the previous employer. Yes, and do a background check, the same level of background check that we require of our educators, our licensed educators.
All right, I've got Member Davis. Did you have a follow-up? Oh. You're just in the queue? Perfect. Yes, I have you written down.
And Chair, what I'm driving at is we have these protections in place already, that the hiring institution, if they're previously employed, needs to call the former institution. And if not, they have to get a background check just like anyone else seeking to come into our public schools. So I look at this as onerous, duplicative, and in many ways overly complex and unnecessary. Thank you.
I wish you would have started with that instead of putting a motion before us and debating it. But I appreciate the summary. I agree. So we have a motion here, and the motion is to amend, to add after in charter schools, staff members as defined in R277-322. Let's go ahead and vote. Member Lear.
Oops, no.
Thank you. Member Kelly.
Yes.
Okay. We have, oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm a no on this. I'm sorry.
Okay. All right, that motion fails, 14 against, 1 in favor, that coming from Member Carey. That brings us to the underlying motion. I'll go ahead and reread that. And that is that the board directs staff to work with the legislator to amend appropriate code lines to ensure that all CTE teachers, Apex Center educators, school social workers, leadership in charter schools, SLPs, and audiologists are required to obtain a license through the USBE. Seeing no lights, let's vote.
I've got my hand up here, so just.
All right, Member Kelly.
Yeah, sorry. To Board Member Bogus's motion, I completely agree with her concern, and I think we've got to try to figure out how to close the loophole. I know that there is a requirement, but it appears as though it's not happening because we keep having instances where somebody moves from 2 cities down the road and is getting hired again, and so there's not the due diligence of calling the previous employer. It doesn't seem to be happening, and so I guess my question to staff or Superintendent Hart is what when administrators are not doing that, what is the consequence? Because it's not been happening in certain cases.
I guess my first question is, what evidence do we have that it isn't happening? My second question is,
A real easy example is the custodian in Spanish Fork.
okay, so that is, just to be clear, that's one example. I mean, I get it.
I know, but it's one too many, quite frankly, and there are others.
I don't disagree. However, how do we know that that actually didn't happen and it wasn't just disregarded? I mean, and then how you would have
Okay,
to
then
go to
what?
the root cause of how that or why that happened. And at that case, it's not more putting more people under the licensing system. It's holding the person responsible who disregarded like, you'd have to know far more about that situation in order to determine who's at fault. I mean, I can give you an example right off the top of my head where there are people that are unwilling to give clear recommendations or clear feedback because they're afraid of being sued. So they skirt around the question and then you end up with a bum employee. I mean, we would have to go to root cause, I think, on that before we determine that it is or is not happening. I know a number of systems I've been in that if you turn in the paperwork without the box checked about who you talk to and when you talk to them, HR won't even process your paperwork. So for hire. So, I think we need to be careful on assigning root cause when we may or may not know. But my answer would be hold the person accountable that made the error, but you'd have to know more about the individual situation, which points right back at UPEC. So I think rather than making a blanket rule, you would have to look at individual case studies.
Thank you. Are we about ready to vote? Randy, are you going to convince us one way or the other? You got the mic. Go ahead.
I'm just concerned about the last item, because I think we need to certify that misinformation is often brought into a meeting like this, and we need to be careful when leadership has already addressed that particular matter with the superintendent of the schools that were just brought forward in a public meeting, and we were satisfied that correct procedure had been followed. So I don't know how we deal with that in a meeting situation like this, but it just concerns me that in the public record, it appears that we have not followed through, but there has been follow through.
There has been. Thank you. Member Green?
Is that not something we can share with the public?
That leadership has had a conversation. You're getting into personnel things, and it's not really germane to this motion here. So,
fair enough.
Member Green?
My question is, what benefit does licensure to the people listed? What does that offer them? What does that do? I'm just gonna for those listening in. If there would be a need for these areas to have to obtain a license, what does that do for them? And what does that do? How does that place them in the system?
To take it, and Malia, if you want to, it's up to you, but you're welcome to chime in or through the chair, obviously. One thing is it would allow them to work in our schools should this be a thing. Secondly, I think the benefit is to the system
and to the public. It increased public trust. It allows them to be subject to UPAC. It allows there to be a check, a state level check on what occurs at an LEA. And I think more than anything, it secures the safety of students. It secures the transparency of those things. And so the benefit really is to the public and to the system. And it's something that's of no cost to the individual at this time. And so I think it's important. I think it's overwhelmingly important. If something were to happen with one of these individuals, then they could never go on. Like, for example, if you had an Apex Center educator and they were found guilty of something through UPAC and their license was suspended or revoked, they could never go on to get a teaching certificate in another state. They couldn't leave the state and decide they wanted to teach in another state. I think it's a benefit to the students and the public at large. As far as personal benefit, I don't know that there's a personal or professional benefit. Licensing these individuals would allow us to track ethical violations and protect the students and the integrity of the profession, ultimately. Unless Executive Coordinator Height has anything else to offer, I think I'll close there.
Member Green?
I've heard with the discussion floating here that having this license, should something happen, it would not trigger INUPAC. Is that true or?
If they are licensed through USBE, then it could, yes. Is that right? Go ahead, Malia.
Thank you, Chair. Malia Height, Executive Coordinator of Educator Licensing. Any individual who has a USBE educator license is subject to UPAC and the educator ethics and those standards. If the legislation or the legislature chose to include all of these individuals in and require them to have a USBE educator license, then they would be subject to UPAC. DOPL licensed individuals who only have a DOPL license or have no educator license are not subject to UPAC.
Thank you. The training too. Member Carey, we good? Okay. I'm sorry. We got to get through some stuff today. All right. And I'd love to take a vote on this. Member Green, you've got a follow up, and Member Davis, you have a follow up, or are you in queue? Member Davis. There's no such thing as quick anymore. I've given up on that. Member Green, go ahead.
So the way this was just answered, I'm wondering if we need to just change the way that motion reads. It says to obtain a license through USBE. Do we change that to a USBE educator license for clarity? I don't know if that matters. I just picked up on the new add to it, which was educator license. So I was just clarifying. But if it's not, then we're good. Okay. Thank you.
Member Davis.
I support the motion. The least we can do is ask and work it out. There are financial implications to this as well, because speech educators were currently getting bonuses under an educator license that they were not getting under DOPL. And there's a lot more implications to this than just this, but I think we can ask for some consistency there.
Member Earl.
Yeah, background checks, how frequently, if there is something that comes up for a background check, do we have knowledge of? Like, is it just as soon as they initially do it, or is it, so if there's a criminal something going on, when is that flagged on there?
Yes, thank you. So anybody who has a background check through the USBE, if the moment that, or the night that an arrest record is logged into any kind of law enforcement system, we're flagged the next day. Yeah.
But okay. What about the staff, right? Does that make sense? When those would be flagged locally?
Yeah, so anybody if somebody's working as a paraeducator, for example, the LEA in which they work has the same kind of background check, but the results from the criminal history go directly to the LEA.
Okay. All right. So there, yeah. All right. Thank you.
Member Bogus.
So I think as we were speaking, another thing it offers is the ongoing monitoring. So every teacher who has a license is subject to ongoing monitoring. And if a teacher gets so much as a DUI, an employee here at the USBE gets, Ben would have to tell you exactly how it works, but basically in every cycle, whether it be a weekly cycle or a daily cycle, a notification is sent to the USBE daily. So if these people are out doing nefarious things, then the agency gets triggered, and we know that they work hard to ensure that our students are safe. And that's honestly how some of these UPAC cases came to be, was through that ongoing monitoring. And that is super important. And I think if we're going to put our most vulnerable citizens and our most precious resources in an power imbalance in a public space where they are compelled to be, we owe it to them and to their parents to do the very best we can to ensure that they are safe at all times. And having that ongoing monitoring, I think, is super important in addition to all the other things we discussed. So thank you.
Okay. So the motion before us is that the board directs staff to work with the legislator to amend appropriate code lines to ensure that all CTE teachers, Apex Center educators, school social workers, leadership in charter schools, SLPs, and audiologists are required to obtain a license through the USBE. Let's vote. Member Kelly?
Yes.
Member Lear, sorry.
Nope.
That motion passes, 8 in favor, 7 opposed. Those in favor, or those opposed, excuse me, being Member Lear, Member Booth, Member Hall, Member Wood, Member Carey, Member Reel, and Member Hymas. Okay. Member Davis.
I have a motion. Deputy Newey, I think, is going to put that up. Just as a little preface, this stemmed from a conversation that Vice Chair Kelly and I had in a finance prep meeting, and then also from our board member our board member workshop. Thank you. I move that the board direct staff to work with the legislature to review programs and program managers providing resources to private and homeschool students for cohesion, disbursement clarity, and possible duplications, including UFA, Carson Smith, SOEP, ESAs, and federal tax credits. That's the old one. I had a new one that was a little more clear that I sent to you with a list at the bottom. Had a more inclusive list at the bottom. I texted it to you if you want to. Sorry. I don't know if I should.
Is this?
Should I start speaking?
Is this complete?
No, she's
Okay.
putting up.
Let's make
complete.
sure it's complete.
Here
Then we'll
it
get
is,
a
right
second.
here. Shall I say it again?
Yeah, if you'll state it in its entirety, then we'll see if we have a second.
Okay, I'll say it now. I'll say it the way it is, and then we can see.
Okay.
I move that the board request the legislature review programs and program managers providing resources to private and homeschool students for cohesion, disbursement clarity, and possible duplications, including UFA, Carson Smith, SOEP private school empowerment, homeschool and small school support, ESAs, and federal tax credits.
Okay.
And
Motion's
I'll
been-
speak to it if I get a second.
Motion's been stated. Do we have a second? Yeah. We have a
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Member Davis.
Okay, thank you. Just a few reasons. This is just to look at any ways to say it's pretty timely right now because we have all of these different programs, and yet we have inconsistencies within the programs and the implementation. There are some examples. For example, we'll take SOEP for example. A homeschool student can use UFA, but cannot get any additional fund for SOEP. They have to use UFA money to take a SOEP class. However, a private school student can get UFA, and then we're also putting $14 million that goes directly to private schools, so it's a duplication of resource. And then you've got a middle ground in a school district or a charter school where the school can get part of the WPU, but it's a reduction if the child takes an SOEP. So there's these kind of incongruent pieces there. And then, for example, we have had some parents contact our office and express frustration because the UFA monies that go to the homeschool students and the private students are clearly identified, and the ones that go into Carson Smith are not. And this year, new figures were put in based on allocations and the managing decisions, which is fine, but it's definitely, I think it would help for all the parents across the board to see something like UFA has for Carson Smith. If this, you get this much. If this, you get this much. And it's not kind of a moving amount. We used to have a Utah ESA, and I don't even know if it's still there, but now we have the homeschool and small school support. And so looking at that under the umbrella, like how does that fit in with the programs that we have? And then now there's a brand new federal tax credit that sort of gets in the mix of the whole thing. And so it's just financially and for clarity, a good time to look across all of these. Similarly, could the Carson Smith be added or overseen or distributed by Odyssey, who does UFA? They're getting millions of dollars to do the same thing-ish. Why can't they be combined? Maybe they shouldn't be, but it's a good time to ask because we're spending $4.5 million just to distribute Carson Smith, where when our office did it for years for $180,000, maybe they need that more money. I don't know, but I think it's a really good time to just look holistically over the whole thing and say, where can we add clarity? Is there duplication? Is there any cohesiveness that can be created with some of the ones that are pretty incongruent currently? And if they don't want to, that's okay. But at least we're just saying, hey, it might be a good time to take a look, a 50,000-foot look at all of these and see where we want to make some changes, if any. Maybe they don't want to, but that's okay. At least we're noting that there are some of these things happening, and we're getting contacts about them as well.
Okay, Member Carey. Superintendent Hart had a...
Yeah, I don't have the ability to second a motion, but if I did, that one would have been seconded by me. We have been working on some things in the office to help provide some clarity to parents in the way that in the complexity that was described. Cassie's working on some resources to provide that clarity, but the ultimate clarity would be the streamlining of the services. Quite honestly, we were close last year on a couple of small tweaks. I think the timing is right. I think we have some ideas on what that would look like. I think we continue to build trust that, and I'm just going to say it honestly, we're building trust that we understand our responsibility is to implement the things that legislature passes. Now, we might not be happy about all of them. They might not be our own personal choices, but at the end of the day, we have a responsibility that we take seriously to implement. And I think we are building that trust. And I think that we could get this accomplished if we continue to build that trust. This is what our parents deserve. And this would make the system work smoother and would be a more efficient use of dollars. So I just wanted to second the motion.
Member Carey.
Thank you, Chair. I just have a bunch of questions and then a motion. So I just want to make sure that I understand, because to me, this is targeting individuals and groups that this body has not been entrusted to oversee. And I use the word entrusted because if we look at Utah Fits All, we had been given one piece to exercise oversight on, and then I think that piece was taken from us. So, which was, well, so let's start with the federal tax credits, because I'm not sure what exactly, are you referring to, is the maker of the motion referring to the education freedom tax credit that was recently passed?
Go ahead.
Yes.
Yes, and it may have zero interweave with our state ESAs that we used to have, and I can't remember, I think we still have it. It was rather small, but I don't know if there's an intersection. That's why I just listed it so they can look at it if it does. I don't know if it doesn't, then would just be a standalone on the side. I also want to just respond quickly to, I appreciate you saying the word target, hopefully in a positive way. When I went to New Orleans, I met with Odyssey and said, we have got to make UFA easier for parents to use. We're getting so many frustrations. What can we do to streamline and make this so they're not beating their heads against the wall? And we had a great conversation, and he ended up writing a white paper, which ended up in some of the legislation tweaks that we had this last session. And it's our responsibility to continue to do that in an effort to make all of these clear and sensical to everybody, not in an effort to reduce the amounts going to the parents. I want to make sure that's very clear.
Thank you, Chair. So I guess my concern is that as I look at UFA, that focuses on non-public school students. Carson Smith, by definition, also no benefits to public school students. And as I go through the list, I think I can make that argument for each one. But when I get to federal tax credits, according to the legislation, this can be used to support K through 12 students, including public school students. And so I worry that if federal tax credits weren't there, I could see how these apply exclusively to private and homeschool students. But by adding federal tax credits, we're also now saying, well, it applies to public school students, but the only duplication, disbursement clarity that we're really looking to identify is that applying to our private and homeschool students.
You have a response, Member Davis?
I'm fine to take that bottom piece off because I wasn't sure if they interacted with the ESAs that we used to have, but we can take those off. We're looking at the other ones for our state.
Thank you, Chair. No, and I'm just saying that just for purpose of consistency, if you're really looking at, well, how should these be, or how could these be more effectively managed, then it makes complete sense to reference homeschooling and private schooling. But when you include those tax credits that apply to public school students, I think it undercuts that argument. It does make it look like a negative type of targeting rather than this holistic, how do we make this better?
Do you have an amendment? I know you had a motion, or you said you have a potential amendment.
Either way, I'll be voting against it. I'm just saying for consistency, I think the language would make more sense that if you remove the federal tax credit. Otherwise, I think it does look like, well, the duplication that we're looking at is only that exists in the homeschooling and private schooling environment. That's all. Thank you, Chair.
Sorry, I'm going to just check in before we jump somewhere else, because you said you had a series of questions and
A motion, but after I heard Board Member Davis, her explanation,
Okay.
it makes sense where she was going, and
Okay.
I'll defer to her as the maker of the motion. Thank you.
next I've got Member Earl.
Yeah, maybe I don't know. I'm not really for this either. I'm trying to understand. I mean, I think there's duplication within public school itself too. So I'm trying to figure out, do we throw all that in? Do we? And I'm not even really sure the homeschool and small school support, how that intersects yet. So I'm trying to do a little research. So maybe I don't even have a question yet.
All right, we've got Vice Chair Bollinger.
Thank you. I actually do support this motion. All this is asking the legislature to do is, hey, take a look at all of the distribution of funds. Where are we duplicating? Are there unintended consequences? Because just like us, if there's a rule here or a law here and a law here and a law here, sometimes they don't connect the dots and see. Part of our role is oversight, right? That's one of our goals, is making sure that we're using the funds. We know they're tight. We just spent a lot of time in our board workshop looking at all of the different funds. A lot of these were programs we looked at. And in a group that I was working with, we had this discussion of, hey, do they understand and know that there's this duplication? And so I think it's worth at least bringing it to their attention. We're not necessarily saying get rid of these programs. We're saying look at these programs. We want to serve all students in the state of Utah, but we also want to use our funds responsibly and effectively. So I absolutely support this motion, and thank you.
Member Kelly.
I'll just say that Vice Chair Bollinger just stole my thunder. What I was going to say is pretty much what she just said. But yeah, I want to emphasize that it's a review. It's a review of these programs and looking at duplication, possibly streamlining. I don't, in no way, shape, or form do I think that Board Member Davis or myself, when we had this discussion, are seeking to take away any choice or school choice that exists in our system now, but there is potentially some duplication, some inconsistencies, and and reviewing and looking at that and potentially streamlining some of it, I think, was our intention.
Okay, Member Davis.
I can make an amendment or I can just make a change without objection, but we need to add in the word scholarship in the paragraph because of the way it's written in code. So it would read, providing resources to private and homeschool scholarship students. And then down below, let's just take off the federal tax credits if that's confusing. All the other things are fairly recent legislation that we can look for to create and add clarity to. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not sure where the new wording is. Yeah, we need to highlight it, get it before everybody, then we'll say, we'll ask if there's objection here. We haven't done any changes yet. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I can't keep up. Yeah, so okay, so you want to add home-based scholarship students, or just home-based? Was scholarship students in there already? Based in scholarship, okay. And you're cutting federal tax credits. Okay, that's what you'd like to do. Is there any objection to that, to amending this to read as such? Member Kelly. Well, if there is, then what we're going to do is we're going to put this to an amendment. So if we have.
The federal tax credits, I just think I don't know. I think for the sake of reviewing and looking at all of it, I think the federal tax credits needs to be in there. And I know that,
So there's
just as a review, we're not saying, I think federal tax credit should stay. That's
So
just my opinion.
there's an objection here. So what that means is this, Member Davis, this is a motion to amend. So I need the original back up there, and then I need to, a motion to amend with these changes. Okay, so the motion to amend is to strike federal tax credits and to strike homeschool students and replace with home-based scholarship students. Member Kelly has semi-spoken to the, or against this motion, as he's in favor of keeping tax credits. Member Davis, you have your light on. Go ahead.
Need a second to the motion for me to speak to it.
That's true. Do we have a second to this motion? There's a second. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I hear what Vice Chair Kelly is saying also, but I also hear what Member Carey is saying, and I don't want there to be any thought that this is going to try to be some reduction of UFA or something like that, because that is not what this is. So if that sends that message, then I think we would need maybe Member Kelly can make a separate motion, or that when we just talk with legislators, they'll inevitably, when they're reviewing all of these other things, understand how all of the finances are working together federally and statewide. That's why I'm just thinking maybe we take it out at this point, because I really want the messaging to be appropriate, that we're supporting school choice and that we are looking at duplication and clarity, not, a reduction to benefits for parents.
Vice Chair Bollinger.
Thank you, Chair. And I appreciate your clarity, Member Davis. I think we're almost wordsmithing this. When we present this, we basically get to speak to it, and we can say that specifically. And so just for the sake of time, I know we have a long agenda today, but I do think that we're wordsmithing just the intent of this, and I think it was fine how it was before moving forward, so.
All right, so there are no more additional lights. The motion before us is to strike federal tax credits and to strike homeschool students and replace with home-based scholarship students. Let's go ahead and vote.
I'm a yes.
Member Lear is a yes. Member Kelly is a no. That's what I heard. There you go. That fails. 7 in favor, 7 no votes, and 1 abstention. The abstention coming from Member Carey. So that brings us to the original motion from Member Davis. If we can scroll up a little bit. And that is that the board requests the legislature review programs and program managers providing resources to private and homeschool students for cohesion, disbursement clarity, and possible duplications, including UFA, Carson Smith, SOEP private school empowerment, homeschool and small school support, and ESAs and federal tax credits. Let's vote.
Board Member Kelly is a yes.
Thank you, Member Kelly. Member Lear? You were muted, but I think you said yes. Okay, okay, we got you. Yes. That passes 12 in favor, 3 no votes. Those coming from Member Carey, Member Earl, and Member Hall. Okay. Board members, let's move into agenda item 10.3. This is legislative funding requests for the 2027 general session. And again, as we go through these funding requests, we do need to we've got a handful before staff that they're working on. we need to remember that we need to try to find the money where that would be coming from. So if we have a lofty goal, keep in mind that we need to find where that money is going to come from. So are there any funding requests at this time? Member Bogus.
So just for clarity, we're formalizing funding requests. Okay, then I would move the BTS funding request.
Is that just straight motion and move the BTS funding request?
Well, it's in backup. It's got all the details
Yep.
it needs. Do you want me to read all the details?
No, I'm just making sure that we're on the same page here.
Unless somebody would like more detail.
No, I had one more policy.
Oh,
We don't have time. We've got to keep going. We'll get you in September. So the motion is to formalize the BTS funding request.
yes, and
Okay.
we had
Do we have a second, or
Oh,
is there more to this motion?
oh, we already formalized it?
Did we, I know, so we're in the process, and I don't know if this is Elise or if this is Scott. Remember, our process for funding is interesting. It's not like the legislative priorities. So Elise? We're getting some clarity here.
So that was a motion made formally by the Finance Committee for staff to prepare it. So it has been prepared. It is now in backup. What we did the last 2 years is that in the September and October meetings, you all rank order all of the ones that the board has voted to put into plans, rank order them, and then we present the top list, and then you make a formal vote that, yes, this is your top 10 list or whatever number that you want to use. So we could use today's motion to put it on that list.
It sounds like it is on the list, right?
It is
It
on
just
the
sounds
list.
like,
That is on the list.
Member Boggins, it sounds like it's
So
coming in September.
it's already been formalized to
Yep.
the list.
And
So we
we'll-
don't need to
we'll
make
rank it.
motions on anything
I don't
that's
think you
been
need to make
prepared in
motion on
backup.
anything that's there. Yeah, we can wait until we rank order them as a board.
Member
Okay,
Hall?
then that's all I have.
Okay, perfect.
So this is found under funding request. It's at the, I think probably Lisa can pull it up. It's for the internal audit hotline support. But 1 FTE. I don't know if you guys saw the request on there, but I was hoping we might be able to bring that one forward for the internal audit hotline support. Also officially on the list. Amen. Okay, thank you. All right, appreciate it.
All right. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm so sorry. I was talking right in the middle of it.
Okay.
I was under the impression, even after we left, sorry, I'm not on the mic, but even after we left the board retreat, that there would still be motions made in this meeting. That was what I left that retreat.
There are motions that still can be, yes. Yeah.
But as long as they've been prepared by staff,
If they're on the list, they are on the list. Okay. You want to, I know. Do we need a break? Or can we just take 7 minutes? Okay, 7 minutes. Board members, welcome back. We are on agenda item 11 from yesterday's unfinished business. Make sure we have a quorum here. 2, 4. There goes our quorum out the door.
I'm still online here.
Got 2 online. Okay. All right. So we are on agenda item 11. This is the consent calendar. So I am going to, I know things get pulled, but no, those people aren't here, and I don't know how long do I wait for people because they usually pull things. So I'm going to move forward. Here we are with the consent calendar. I'm going to ask for items to be pulled off the consent calendar. Or not. I'm not hearing any. So I would, oh, Member Booth, thank you.
I move that we approve the consent calendar.
Okay. There's a motion to approve the consent calendar. It's been seconded. Let's go ahead and vote.
Board Member Kelly is yes.
Thank you, Member Kelly. Member Lear? Okay. Any others gonna throw in a vote before we close it? This is for consent. Okay.
Matt,
Yes.
it's Carol. Sorry. I'm a yes for consent, I think.
Thank
Yes.
you. Okay. That motion passes 11 in favor, 1 abstention, 3 absences. The abstention coming from Member Carey. Excuse me. We now move on to our study session. That's part of consent. So let's begin with agenda item 8, our study session here. From what I understand, the motions yesterday were all moved to September. Yeah, they went back to committee. So I think we're in good shape.
Okay, thank you.
Okay? All right, now I'm just trying to find our proper agenda item. Okay. So, Superintendent, are we doing 8.1 or 8.2 first?
We are going to do 8.2 first.
8.2. So can we have Dr. Height and Deputy Superintendent Leah Voorhees?
I will, Deputy Voorhees.
And we're going to talk about streamlining educator licenses or streamline educator licensing. Leah, let me get your light. Go ahead.
Thank you. Good morning or afternoon, Board. Leah Voorhees, Deputy Superintendent. We've only been here a little while. I would like to remind you where this item came from, the context for this information. During the board workshop, you requested that staff follow up on several questions that you had related to funding and related to progress on work you are doing for your strategic plan. So the follow-up for the funding requests were related to Course Choice Empowerment, SOEP, the STEM Action Center, Upstart, the School of the Future, Economic Stabilization Funding, and the 3% special education self-contained increase. So Superintendent Hart has information that we have gathered from 2 of those organizations, STEM Action Center and Upstart, and has probably already sent that to you. And we are working on those other items so that you have all of that information going into your discussing your funding requests and the legislative session. You also asked for information on a couple policy requests. One was related to state assessments and the ESSA and possible ESSA waiver, which is the next study session item. And then also you asked for an update related to your strategic plan. How is the streamlining of educator licenses going? Are we doing a better job of retaining teachers, getting content experts in front of students? What type of teachers are still needed? Why are they still needed? And the need or not to continue LEA-specific licenses. So, to that point, this item is going to review those questions, and as we reviewed the information related to those questions, we've actually added 2 more questions. So you can see on, if you have the handout, you can see on the screen, you had 6 questions. We've added 2 once we looked at the data. And Malia has gone through and has both data and graphic information for you to be able to review. So you can tell us if there are next steps that you would like related to your questions from the board workshop.
And this is the handout?
This is the handout, exactly.
So the next step would be to staple in the left top corner.
Got you covered.
That's a sick joke.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, you're right. You're right. All right.
All right. So we're just going to quickly go through each of these questions, and then if you have follow-up questions, happy to address those.
And could we, if it's okay, I want to set this out. If we have questions on the question, or are you waiting till the end because you're going to answer question 1 in question 5, right? How do you want to format this?
Yeah.
So board members, I'd say we're going to go through this. If we're going through this question by question, if you have a question, let us know so we don't. Okay, thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Good afternoon, Malia Height, Executive Coordinator of Educator Licensing. So we have our 8 questions. The ones that we added as we looked into the information was number 6 and number 8. So we'll get to those eventually. We're going to start with, how are we doing with educator retention? And just to highlight the things that I think of as the important things to look at is that you can see in the blue shaded area that for the last 3 school years, our 1-year retention rate has gone up slightly each year. We're at a retention rate of 91.8% of the teachers that were teaching came back the next year. And that is the highest 1-year retention rate in the last 12 years, which is as much data as I had. So I think that while that is improving slightly, it's important to note that we have been pretty static around 91%, 89, 91% for all of those 12 years.
I think that's fantastic. I'm just going to throw it out there. This is a good thing. If some of you are like, that's not very good, you're wrong. It is. So thank you.
It's the best ever on record.
This is great. Thank
paper.
you, Malia, for this. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, you bet. And this down below is just a graphic of showing that those last 12 years of retention data. You can see where we had our little COVID dip. We were lucky in Utah that our COVID dip for educator retention was not as significant as many other states saw. They lost a lot of educators, and we did not, we're very lucky that way. So if you look at the next page, this compares our state's teacher retention to our neighboring states. You can see Arizona, Idaho, California, and Colorado. And you can see that Utah is above all of the other neighboring states as far as 1-year retention goes. And at the bottom of this page, there's some more information that shows not only the 1-year retention rate under that first shaded area, But in the last column, you can see what's the percent of vacancies, meaning classrooms that need a teacher that don't have one. And so you have to put in a long-term sub. And you can see that Utah's vacancy rate is significantly lower than any of our neighboring states by a lot, both in number as well as percentage.
Okay, thank you. Member Carey?
Thank you, Chair. Hey, Dr. Hyde, I know you're an expert on Utah educator licensing, but the number I want to talk to you about is the California number.
Oh, sure.
So if we look at this bottom chart, it
Mhm.
says percent of teachers with a professional license. And I don't know why. I just always assumed California would be 90, 95%. So I look at 53%. Can you help the board better understand why that number is where it's at?
Yeah, so California has a interesting tiered license system so that a candidate, when they graduate from their teacher preparation program and begin teaching, they actually don't get their full professional license until they've completed their induction program. So they have a couple years. If we look at all of the people who have finished that initial teacher preparation, their number is a little bit closer to 80-85%, still significantly lower. But this number is also showing some of they had a lot of educator loss from COVID impacts. But that really they really are having significant issues. They're starting to turn it around with a lot of their alternate preparation programs and things that they have done statewide, but it is significant.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Member Bogus?
Simple question. Why not Wyoming?
Their information is harder to find. That's all.
Okay. Well, I just was
Yeah,
wondering.
no, that's it. That's the only reason.
It's the only state that borders us wasn't included.
Yeah,
so-
it's similar. They have their numbers are tiny compared to ours.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Okay.
they only have 500,000 people in the whole state.
Member Earl?
Just a question on when we talk about retention, does the retention, so the 9% that's not retained, is that include people that are retiring? Oh, it does. So it has the retirement piece to it. It's not just people leaving the profession for the sake of, I want something else.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's every single person who had a job last year showed up this year, independent of why.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, let's keep going.
Okay, so the next page really just shows that the comparison data for the other states so that you can kind of see visually as far as the number of number of teachers that have a professional level license. And you can see that in Utah, we have 92 point something or 90, I think it's 93% of our teachers have a professional license. So, not only are we retaining the teachers, but we're retaining higher quality teachers than our neighboring states.
Have you seen a bigger push for that with Apple? Anecdotally, in my space, I have seen more teachers get professionally licensed these past couple years. It's been wonderful to see. Have you seen? Is that it?
Yeah, it's coming. Number 3 and 4 is going to answer exactly
Right,
or
you're right.
get to that point exactly. But thank you for the foreshadowing, Chair. Okay, if there are no other, well, I think one other thing to mention as we're just kind of wrapping up some teacher shortage information is, as was mentioned in the Law and Licensing Committee this morning, we have positions for teachers that are being posted on the Wasatch Front and have hundreds of applicants. I heard one LEA posted one elementary position and had over 400 applicants. So the competition and the teacher shortage and even the labor shortage is really in some areas of Utah not as significant. So question number 2 is, how are we doing in streamlining licenses? And this is, of course, tied to your strategic plan. And one of the things that I really want to celebrate is this first bullet, which is the license renewal simplification in the last several years has been insane. Yes. Member Brinton is excited because she just recently renewed her educator license, and it was so simple. And this summer, as I attended a lot of different teacher conferences, it was remarkable how many teachers, when they came and found our table, gave us high fives because it was so simple. They were just so pleased with the changes and that it was just one less thing to take off their plate. So that was a big celebration, I think. Some of the other things that the board has done is we've expanded how to get the secondary license area, as long as they have some sort of a teaching and meet the professional endorsement requirements. We've simplified that process, and so no longer do they have to complete an Apple program. They have met all of the competencies. Something that's new this coming school year is that professional teachers can teach 25% out of their content area. So, for example, I'm licensed to teach secondary mathematics, and if I were hired to teach, I could teach 75% in mathematics and then 25% outside of mathematics, as long as the LEA says that I'm qualified to teach that. So we've got that flexibility, and then, of course, lots of flexibility in the CTE space.
We have a Vice Chair Bollinger.
Yeah, I don't have a question specifically, but I just want to celebrate this because this is some of the work that we've been doing in law and licensing it because of our goals that we have as a board and our strategic plan and helping cut red tape for teachers and really honoring them as professionals. And I think this is just celebration that we've made this progress. So thank you for your support in that.
Yeah, my pleasure. I like making things easy. Our next question is to the chair's comment, how are we doing getting content experts in front of students? And so this is in the colored column. You can see the percent of teachers that are in those content areas or grade levels, the percent that are fully qualified, meaning they have a professional license, a professional endorsement, and they're 100% covered for whatever it is that they're assigned. And you can see that we have the big item there is CTE, those teachers, and health and PE, and then special education. Those tend to be our big items where we have needs for content area or content or grade level practitioners. But if you look at the column all the way to the right, that is the percent of the teachers that have a professional license. So if we look at CTE, even though only 75% of those teachers have the professional endorsement, 87.7% of them have the professional license. So they've completed an educator preparation program, they've demonstrated all of the general teacher preparation competencies, and have content expertise in at least one endorsement area, but they're teaching outside of their area for some of their assignment. Not starting the school year, will there be a penalty?
What was the question? Sorry. Is there a penalty for that?
It used to be $4,000 or something.
Oh, you mean finance? So in 2025, the legislature suspended the funding that was tied to teacher qualification, which was the educator quality supplement that happened at the end of the school year, was around $2,100. And they did that when they switched to making the educator salary adjustment bigger. So educator salary adjustment used to be $4,000. Now it's over $10,000. And in order to qualify for that, you need to have a license, any license, professional associate or LEA specific, in order to qualify for that supplement. This coming year, for SLPs and audiologists, if they have, and school social work, if they have a DOPL license, they will also qualify for that funding. No, school won't. Yeah.
Sorry, if there's no light, we're not responding. Sorry, Cindy. That's okay. Let me just tell you the implication, which you already know. Many of us and the public, we use AI, a highly intrusive one, to say, hey, what happened during these meetings, right? And if it's off mic, it's a blank spot. So we want to make sure that people can hear it. And then also we have 2 board members as well. So any questions, please put them on a microphone. Member Davis.
I said, so no.
And now we're all clear.
Perfect.
Thank you.
So this next table will show you how many teachers have professional licenses and are fully qualified with a professional license and endorsement, disaggregated by charter school versus district. And so you can see the differences there, that our teachers in the charter schools are not have a less frequency of having a professional license and less likely to have a professional endorsement where required. We are seeing the Apple program impacting those numbers significantly, and that's where we're seeing the professional licenses go up. And you can start to see that in this next graph. Here you can see that this is how many teachers did not have a professional licensure. So as you see it kind of go down as the school year goes on, that means we have more people having a professional license with professional endorsements. So, we've got it separated by elementary and secondary and special education so that you can see those differences there. We had our little COVID bump is the green year. We hit our COVID shortage a year after the rest of the country did. Okay, this last one shows the teachers that have a professional license. So if we don't look at the endorsement and only look at their license, you can see it's been pretty steady, but it is trending up. So we went from 89 to 90%, and we're at now 92% of all teachers have a professional license. And we believe that that number will go up even more this school year. Oh, sorry. So what types of teachers are still needed? And this is based on the data that we've just looked at. Special education, CTE, health, and PE are where we are seeing the highest needs when looking at professional qualifications. Some of those content specific areas in secondary space are also needed. Something that is interesting that we're noticing this year is that the terminations for reduction in funding this year are showing that we have more teachers that are losing their position because of a reduction in funding. So far, as of today, we have had 65 educators lose their positions because of a reduction in funding. Often that's a reduction in enrollment or other things. But this is broken down by which position they were holding that the position has been reduced by the LEA.
Would that include school closures?
Does that include, what's that, Cole?
School closures.
Would that
School closures?
Yeah.
Yeah, so school closures could certainly be impacting this, especially when you look at that elementary number, because we've seen the elementary schools closing. Yeah.
Member Bogus?
Thank you. So this causes me some consternation because we always talk about reducing class sizes, but class sizes aren't going down, but we have fully certified educators on staff, but we're not keeping them in order to reduce class size. Does anybody else see that as a real conundrum? Well, and maybe maybe they need to spend their money differently so they can afford them. I mean, it's a genuine question because I've always wondered why we close schools and then we redraw boundaries, and then certain school boundaries, those buildings become overcrowded. And I mean, one of my classes 2 years ago was 65 kids. I mean, it's overwhelming to think about that, but that was a very big reality for me. But yet the school next door was closing. And I don't understand how are we even trying to reconcile this? Maybe that is the question I want to ask.
We
mean,
don't close schools. This is a district.
I mean, as
level,
a state. As a state,
this is a district level.
Well, I understand school
decision.
closures is a district level decision.
Right. Well, and so is like we talk about these teachers saying, hey, now you have 20 elementary teachers. You could have used those, right? That's what I guess the public needs to ask their LEAs.
Very much. Very true. And I guess, yeah, you're right. I'll let it go. I just think it's weird.
If it helps, I did have the same question directly to a superintendent, and we can talk offline because I had similar questions. Malia, please.
Okay, so if we turn the page, we can look at the next question, number 5, which is where are they still needed? Where do we need teachers? And so in order to show you this is Utah broken up by our school districts. And the colors are what percent of these teachers at this district have a professional license. And so the darker the blue, the more of their teachers have a professional license, and the lighter the blue, the less. And if you're looking at the yellow or green districts, those are the ones that have the least number of professionally licensed teachers, or the least percentage. So you can see that it really is limited to a few of our rural areas, and they do struggle. Some of these areas have struggled to find lots of different educators, not just teachers. I know one of these districts posted a school counselor position for 3 or 4 years without getting a candidate to apply. They now luckily have been able to grow their own, so that's wonderful. But this is, you can see really where the shortages are. If you look at the scale on the bottom of the page, it will show you where our state's average is, and then you can compare different districts to where they might land in that color schema. If they're that darker blue, then they are above the state average for percent of their teachers with a professional license. Okay, the next graph, it's the same information. It just shows you with a more discrete comparison, district by district. And again, charter schools are not included in this graph. So statewide, we're 92%, and charters are just around 76-ish%. Okay. Our next question is, how do teacher needs or shortages compare to teacher salary data? So we looked at the percentages of teachers with a professional license and compared that to the average salary of the teacher as reported. Every teacher's salary is reported in Cactus. And so we did a very basic analysis, and you see the red line is the trend line. It is going up. It is very mild. And if you actually dig into the stats, it isn't statistically significant. But what we might say is that there is a weak correlation between the districts that have more professionally licensed teachers. They tend to pay them more. So the districts that pay more are more likely to have a professionally licensed teacher. Okay, if you really like stats, the next 5 bullets are all for you later. We can nerd out a little bit later. But for the rest of us, let's turn the page. Our next question was, LEA-specific licensure, do we continue it? Do we get rid of it? What do we do? And that really is a question for the board to debate, but I wanted to provide you with some information that may be helpful. One is that in this last school year, we had 7.7% of our teachers were qualified through some sort of an LEA-specific, whether that was a license or an endorsement. That's down from the year prior. It was 9%. So again, showing that we're moving in the right direction. The next graph shows, broken down by secondary and elementary, the number of LEA-specific licenses. So these individuals would be individuals that did not have a license at all and were issued an LEA-specific license. And so you can see over the last 3 school years, that number is decreasing. Something to note is that when looking at LEA-specific requests from charter schools, they represent about half of all LEA-specific requests, while our teacher population, charter teachers only represent 10% of our state's teacher workforce. Yes.
Okay.
So charter teachers represent 10% of all of our teachers, but represent half of our LEA-specific licensed teachers. And you can kind of see that displayed in the next graph.
Remember, sorry, we've got a couple.
Oh, is there a question?
There, I think there is. Who do we have here? Member Kelly.
Great.
Go ahead.
Yes. Thank you. I'm curious about the rural versus urban on this statistic as well. Are we finding that a lot of these LEA specific licenses are because it's more rural areas? And you know, you mentioned the counseling position that was open for 3 years. Are they maybe, you know, I'm just curious if that is something that's figured into this.
Yeah, thank you so much for the question. One of the things that's challenging about looking at that number for rural teachers versus an urban or suburban district or LEA is that our N sizes are really tiny when we start looking at some of our rural districts. And so looking at how many LEA specific licenses is not as helpful. Maybe they only have 5 at a particular rural school, but that might be half of their teachers. We have schools that have 1 teacher. And so so that's why we displayed the data using that heat map. So that's where I would refer you to say that, yes, in the rural areas, the percent of their teachers, thank you, whoever's driving, the percent of the teachers in those rural areas, you can certainly see that right there in the interstate corridor is where we have our darkest colors. And that those are our urban and suburban districts, and that's where we're seeing more professionally licensed teachers working. And in the lighter areas, the percent of those teachers without it is certainly higher. So more LEA-specific licenses percentage-wise in the rural areas, but maybe not an N size.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So this last graph kind of shows what we were talking about with Member Bogus's question. So the red line represents all of the LEA-specific licenses that were issued, and then we separated that into charter schools and districts. And so you can see that roughly the same number come from charter schools and districts, but again, charter schools only represent 10% of our workforce.
Question from Member Carey.
Yeah, I feel like I'm supposed to be drawing a conclusion from that statistic somehow. So if there is one, I'm missing it. So what is that?
Well, without putting value on the answer, I will say that the difference is that they represent a proportionally, you would think that 10% of all LEA-specific licenses would come from charter schools. But that's not what the data say. The data says that half, So there's a greater percentage of teachers getting an LEA-specific license at charter schools versus district schools.
But is that a net positive? Is that a net negative? Is it a net neutral? Like
That is what the board gets to debate.
There's no debate. Charter schools are kinder to the population and recognize the talent that's out there and helps them get licensed so that they can then leave us and go to the district school. That's what we are, the best educator prep
Part
program.
of our teacher pipeline.
Yeah. So that's the reality. That's my reality that I live in. So who do you want next, Amanda, from my school?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, it is. It's not surprising to me. I don't know if it would be surprising to any charter school leader, teacher, that these numbers are where they are.
Right. And I think there's a lot of reasons that is why that is, which was not the scope of the question. So we're going to move on to number 8. And number 8 was the endorsement simplification. What are the next steps? And this is something that Deputy Voorhees and I have been working on with cross-department collaboration and working with doing some deep research across the nation to look at different models and understand where are we as a state and where are we going. And we started to look at really what is the intent of educator licensing, and would propose that we return to what that critical intent is. And that is that an educator license is to indicate preparation and competence. It ensures public safety and establishes ethical standards. And so in order to do that, then we propose that we simplify the scope of endorsements. The things that we are working to do is to significantly reduce the number of endorsements available, broaden the scope of practice for individuals with endorsements, and we provided an example of what this might look like at the direction of the board. Is that currently we have 9 different social studies endorsements, and those are listed there on the left. And we have already drafted and are close to releasing a more streamlined 2 social studies endorsements, where a person with this social studies endorsement in the blue box would be able to teach any course that was previously covered by 7 different endorsements. So before, if somebody had an economics endorsement, they would only be qualified to teach economics classes. Where now, this person would have a social studies endorsement and would be qualified to teach all of those topics. And then we would have the social behavioral sciences separate for psychology and sociology. And so with this model, if we looked at this with specializations as opposed to endorsements, it would reduce the teacher assignment complexity by 50%, which also simplifies the question, well, what can I teach? Currently, we have in Cactus over 1,600 different assignments or course codes that we can assign to a teacher. And when you look at how many different license areas and endorsement combinations that could qualify you to teach those courses, today there's over 5,700 combinations of ways that you can be qualified to teach those classes, and over 2,000 in CTE. If we look at the simplified proposed endorsement, then that reduces to under 3,000 combinations and 865 in CTE. So that's what we have been working on. We are actively working on trying to reduce the number of endorsements and simplify the system. And with that, I am happy to answer any questions.
We do have a question.
No, Doctor, this part is really exciting, and it addresses. I think we saw that heat map where some of those rural areas are struggling for endorsements, but part of that is because of this. Like if you have a teacher, let's say in a middle school that is a 7-9 middle school, and they're qualified to teach Utah studies, but then they don't have a qualification for geography, but they don't have enough students to have 7 sections of Utah studies. Then they're underqualified for that class. And by combining these, it's just going to provide a lot more flexibility and job security for those that are going into these subjects. And I'm excited to see this happen here and even across the board. It also simplifies what we're doing with the work here with our employees. You don't have to have an expert in each one of these endorsements or competencies for every single one of these. It's combined together. So it saves a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of stress, and this work is just amazing. So thank you.
My pleasure.
Hey. Yes, yeah. Thank you, Dr. Height and Leah. Great job, Leah. Member Longacre, go ahead.
Yeah, bear with me because this idea is just kind of coming to my head as I speak, but just hear me out for just a second. We have all of these amazing people who have gone to school to get their license, and there's no jobs available for them. Is there anything that we can do to try to keep them from getting other jobs and never coming back to education? And here's my idea. Going along with that, can we incentivize districts or schools to hire these teachers possibly as paras and supplement a little bit of their income? It works out in my head, and it's a great idea in my head. Does anyone know what I'm trying to say? I mean, this could morph into a legislative request or a program. We want licensed teachers in schools with our kids. We need more help in the classroom. How can we incorporate both of those things? I don't know. Someone help me out and bring my idea over the finish line because it's a really good one.
Well, this is
in my head. It is.
For me, yeah. When you start looking at technical details, when you start looking at comparisons and workloads, salaries, benefits, it's a big conversation to have for sure. I don't know if you want to have it now. No, I don't. But Leah or Malia, combined name of Malia. If you have any insight, yeah.
No, but I'll pay attention to my shower ideas now because maybe it'll come. I think that it's a very interesting idea, and what we're seeing a lot is individuals who do have licenses and can't find positions. They are taking jobs as paraeducators or they're subbing, and so they're because those folks are really dedicated to public education and they want to serve. I think an idea like that, it's really interesting. It would be probably expensive if there was some sort of a supplement. Paraeducators in the state make $14, $15, $16 an hour and are working typically not full-time and so are in unbenefited positions, and which makes it 35% cheaper than a full-time person on top of just the wage difference. So it's a complex question, and it's something that I think LEAs are grappling with and the legislature's grappling with and trying to increase the wages of teachers, and it's a hard question. And if you can crack it, you'll be a billionaire.
All right. Member Earl. Oh, not ready. Okay. Yeah. Well, let's Leah, go ahead. Sorry.
Leah Voorhees, Deputy Superintendent. So are there other questions that board members have that you want us to look into? So Malia mentioned that one of the things we've done is a state scan, which we had help from a National Technical Assistance Center. So we've been meeting with the National Technical Assistance Center for 6 months now, probably, to help us with the simplification process. And so we do, if there are other questions that you want us to look into, we are interested in and are actively working on it.
But she's waiting for the next agenda item, I believe. So go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. As we were in our workshop and we were trying to make goals for each of our, or what our next steps are, basically what I'm hearing you guys say is we are continuing to make progress. We're going in the right direction. It's just going to take time to go through all of the consolidation and the streamlining, but we're going as fast and as hard as we can. Is that a fair statement? So I would say keep doing what you're doing. Thank you.
Member Davis.
You asked if there were other things we'd love to see. I would love to see something like this for like the changes in how I heard that we were simplifying the STIR. Are we calling it the STIR or the STEER? I don't know what we're calling it, but in the future, this is so helpful to look at what's happening with the endorsement system. Something like that for that would be really helpful too, to see where those simplifications are coming. Did I hear that wrong? We can talk offline.
Yes, they are working on simplifying teacher competencies. They're looking at the elementary competencies. That was what the board asked us to do this last fall and spring. And so currently there's it's a lot for elementary, and they're looking to reduce that significantly, but it's not the STIR, which is the student teacher evaluation rubric tied to our general teacher competencies. Those are still the 37 general competencies.
May I follow up quickly? Will those be adjusted when they relook at all of the competencies for elementary?
There's not a plan to do that. The field and the board asked us 2 years ago to not change anything for several years. So we've still got 3 years to not change anything.
There's just a lot, and some of them are duplicative.
A little muddy.
Thank you, muddy. Good word.
Okay. On this one, go ahead.
I'm curious about the student teacher, because we've incentivized student teachers. I'm curious how many of those turned over into actual job positions when they were completed. I'm just wondering if that investment turned to anyways, that's one of the numbers I think would be interesting to find too. You have it. Okay.
Yes, so the student teacher stipend has been, we just finished our second year and we're looking at our third year. We have roughly 1,400 candidates that qualify for the stipend, which is $6,000. And we have from the first year to the second year, around 60% of those first year student teachers were working as a teacher in Utah in that second year.
Thank you. I've got both online hands up. We've got Member Lear first and then Member Kelly. Member Lear.
I'm not sure anybody appreciates a philosophical question at this time, but I kind of have a question that is in my head, kind of like Aaron's, and that is, I'm wondering if there's any way to discern when teachers, I think that one of the saddest things is when fully prepared teachers leave teaching, and especially under 10 years. And I'm wondering if there's any way to figure out. Oh boy. What if they leave because they're not content ready, prepared, or if they leave because of classroom management problems. And I know Representative Carol Moss tried to get at this a few years ago with exit surveys, but I don't think exit surveys are very helpful because people leaving are just anxious to leave and they don't want to, they don't want to take a lot of thought and emotion in leaving. But I just wondered if there was any way that you can think of that you could gauge that. And do we have more problems with content ready teachers or classroom management ready teachers. Did I lose you all?
Yeah. We're just thinking, I'm not sure what needs to be taken offline. If we have a response right now, go ahead.
I don't know if Leah or Malia, who both work, who both are buried in this information, if they have an opinion or if it's something that we could somehow ferret out.
Yes.
Or just tell me no.
No, related to that question. So the question was, do we have a need for content-ready teachers or classroom management-ready teachers, and why are they leaving? We have been working with a technical assistance group to provide us with some in-depth research on teacher preparation and teacher retention. And as part of that research project, they interviewed and surveyed recent teacher prep program completers and asked them questions like, how ready did you feel to tackle content? How ready did you feel you were ready to tackle classroom management and specific things, special education, etc.? And so that final report will be ready this fall, and we will be presenting that to the board.
Okay. Tonight, that's enough. I just think that's a very interesting, compelling question, because you have lots of really smart people who don't make good teachers.
Member Kelly?
I don't have a question. I do want to say the data was very informative, very well presented, and thank you for your work. I thought this presentation was very well done.
Okay. Thank you. All right, board members, with that, let's move to agenda item 8.1. We're going to turn it over to, and thank you again, Malia and Leah, and we're going to turn it over to Superintendent Hart.
So, Deputy Voorhees, did you already send out the spreadsheet? Okay. Kelsey has it, but it's up. Okay. Will you send a copy to all the board members so that they can pull it up on their individual computers if they would like? Thank you. So previously you have already had a study session on waivers, but I understand that you want to talk waivers again. I'm not sure how much you really want to talk waivers at this exact moment in time, but because it's agendized and because you told me to, we are going to, until you tell me to stop. I'm sorry, I don't have this. No, it's not in backup. It's being sent to your email right now. Oh, I apologize. Yeah, so that it's at the top of your email. It is in backup from the last time we talked about it in study session. So I understand that there is interest on the part of the board to do a federal waiver. And there are, I think we're up to 7 states, 6, I think actually, states that have received waivers. It started with Iowa. The most recent, I think it's either South Dakota or Arkansas, depending on what time the notice came out. I guess it was pretty much the same day virtually. So what the waiver is, you can only waive provisions of ESSA. You cannot waive all federal laws, which means you cannot waive anything having to do with IDEA, special education. What the philosophy of the waiver is the federal government says, we accept the premise that there are places where bureaucracy gets in the way of high student achievement. And since we accept that premise, we are willing to entertain states' plans for cutting specific bureaucratic red tape in the ESSA law in exchange for higher test scores. You cannot waive assessment. Now, Indiana came close. They changed up some aspects of assessment, but quite honestly, most of their provisions were shot down. They actually came up with a way more complicated indicator of student proficiency. There are many that say that their system became more complex, but it works for them and it met their needs. So good on them, right? So that's what it's about, making something that works for the state. You cannot waive assessment because the whole premise is that you're exchanging bureaucracy for higher test scores. Okay? So that is the basic premise. Now, what you have before you, and we have also Sid. Thank you for joining us. We're going to phone a friend probably in a few minutes. What our team created for us, our assessment team and others, is a huge spreadsheet of the things you can waive, the options. And if you scroll through the spreadsheet, so first off is an introduction, and it gives you some of the language that and some specifics that that I just kind of glossed over. And then it lists basic information about flexibilities that exist, the flexibility, whether it's unlikely, possible, limited, already flexible, and then some notes, and it's a worksheet. So you can see how, if we were to do a waiver, the questions we would need to answer. How would we monitor and regularly evaluate the effectiveness of the waiver? How schools will continue to assist the populations that the waiver affects? How maintaining or improving transparency and reporting, what that would look like. So you can see what matters to the federal government when considering the waiver. So you scroll through and you see just how expansive a waiver can be. You don't sign up and just say, we want to waive, we want to have a waiver. You have to propose a specific waiver with a specific theory of action with indicators. You have to get public comment, and the federal government will work with you through this process. It is a lengthy process. I think it's getting, my opinion, it's getting shorter as more and more states go through the process. There is no guarantee that these waivers will stand through a change at the federal level. So there is the possibility of what you might call a boomerang effect. So if we engage in this, we need to do it with eyes wide open. So I have to turn it back to you as a board. And I have to say, what is it that you want to accomplish with a waiver? What areas are most important to you, keyed to specific items that can be waived? And then once you figure that out, your staff can put together some options. But it is impossible, bless y'all's hearts, to read your mind on what you might want for a waiver without a larger conversation and some feedback on what to put in a waiver. there are, first of all, a million directions we could go. And I just in a moment of levity, I would hate to take all 15 of you to dinner and figure out where we were going to go. We would starve. So I need some feedback. Staff needs feedback on what direction. I know it's an interest, but without more information than that, we can't do what you're wanting us to do. So I don't know if you've talked about it in smaller groups or if you have any ideas or if you want to throw something out there, but that's the lay of the land. What say you?
All right. Looks like we have Member Earl, Member Davis, Member Bogus, and Member Booth. Not Member Earl. Okay. Member Davis.
How much time would it take for staff, Chair, to take everything possible in green and let us know any cost, any benefit, any potential risk, or maybe just benefit and risk of each of those possibilities so that we could create a list of those that we want to seek from that green list? Would that take an inordinate amount of time? Potential benefits, potential risks?
So one of the things that I've noticed from the states that already have waivers is that they are working off of it's not one. They have decided what they want. It's like the Arkansas Learn Plan, the Mississippi reading, blah, blah, blah. They have come up with a theory of action, a set of reforms or things, and then their waiver then complements that. It's hard to, because you're never going to do just one of these. It's never going to be, so I will throw out one possibility, which I hesitate to do because I just hesitate, but I'm going to do it anyway. Say you wanted to, and by the way, before you get real excited, there is already much of this flexibility pre-existing. So this one would get kicked back to us and told that we already have much of the flexibility. Say we wanted to say that because we have so many small districts like Tintic and Daggett, we could ask for their funds to be put in one big pot, and that they would get, under a certain threshold, they would get some flexibility in reporting and use of those dollars. Now, some of that already exists. That would actually probably be 3 or 4 of the red or the green and the blue mixed together. So these items are very unlikely to stand alone. So it's the combination that is the key. It's like putting together a banana split. You can't just pick one flavor. You have to do 3 flavors and 3 toppings, and then you're like,
So since the chair's not here, I'm assuming I can follow up.
You can.
Would our strategic plan be enough, focused enough so that some of these requests, I'm just saying like a big portion, we just reviewed this last week, a big portion of our reporting requirements come from the federal government.
Right.
So is there a way to reduce some of that? And what do we need to do to be able to do that? And understanding the risk that if there's an administration change, it all may come back, what's going to be reasonable?
Director McCarty, you want to come on up for a minute? will you go ahead and introduce yourself to the group? Will you give her the mic? Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm Sydney McCarty. I'm the Director of Assessment and Accountability. Can you repeat your question?
Superintendent had indicated that the states that are applying for waivers have a plan, and then they're fitting their chosen pieces of waiver into this plan. Would our strategic plan suffice to look at these and say which of these would help us free up more resources or time to do these parts of our strategic plan? Or does it need to be a narrower focus?
I think that's a fair question. I think we can align. I mean, right now with the strategic plan, there's the element of assessment and outcomes, of ensuring that assessments are aligned. So I think we could look at how the strategic plan would work with our assessment plan and how we might look at where we already have flexibility and would not need a waiver and where we would maybe need a waiver. But as far as what's in the strategic plan right now, I don't think there's enough specificity with designing an assessment plan that would also meet our federal requirements. I think we would need a little bit more detail.
And that's kind of, I'm not working at, director and staff are working at the level of creating the measures right now. And so it's hard for me to say if they're coming up with measures that would lend itself to that. I just know we're working on measures. They know what measures they're working on. I am concerned that you wouldn't have a robust waiver. It would just be one piece of a larger. I guess the question we have to answer is, what problem are we trying to solve with a waiver? What is it that you want to, now, if you are interested, I'm just riffing off the top of my head, you are interested in reducing reporting requirements for districts. You, in this waiver, would have to show how that would have an effect on student outcomes through assessments. And so you then have to think about what type of assessments would be needed in order to show that. And would that come crashing right into the whole idea of reducing assessments? And so you've got to figure out what problem are you trying to solve and link it to improved student outcomes. And only then are you going to be able to identify what it is that you would want us to put in a potential waiver.
I mean, we're getting reading experts going, or at least supports going into all of our schools. We have a focus on, we're going to try to focus on math and literacy. I mean, it just seems like a good time to try to get some of these waivers tied to student scores if we're really going to put a push in trying to improve at least math and reading, if we get the funding for math this year.
Okay. I've got Member Booth, and I do want to just kind of echo, this is not an opportunity to look through the list and be like, oh, let's do that one, and that one, right? And so we don't want to go backwards. And I know it is tempting, right? And I've gotten pressure from public saying, look, this is available. Let's exercise our rights here. Well, yeah, we absolutely can, but to what end? We don't just do it just because it's not going to work. We'll be rejected. So there you go.
There is a school of thought that by not engaging in waiver activities, you are actually reducing the involvement with the federal government.
All right. Member Booth. Oh,
yeah.
Member Booth, go ahead.
So we deal with this information
intensely for several meetings a month. You and your agency staff deal with these issues every day. I hear from Nebo District and Provo District primarily, and then a few things from USBA. We're getting a little piece of the issues, but even though there is a tsunami of information and requests and complaints and whatever coming at you all the time, you and your staff are figuring out how to manage it, because if you look at the good things that are happening, somehow we're still traveling in a good direction, no matter how many problems we might have. I would be most interested in what you and your staff, based on your personal experience on a day-to-day basis, are finding to be the most burdensome, the most difficult, the most restrictive or harmful to the educational process and system we're trying to implement for the good of students, and what, from your very experienced perspective, we should be focusing on. We can all choose as a board member, we should do this, we should do this, we should do this. Well, yep, those are all good things. But I'm very interested in those of you that are trying to solve the problems, what you would, or if you would, choose to spend your time in chasing after specific waivers to improve our attainability level of the specific goals and objectives that we have set in our strategic plan.
I don't shy away from innovation. Innovation doesn't scare me in the least. In fact, I have to temper somebody asked me, I had to introduce myself and my superpower the other day, and the only thing my table partner, who knows me well, could think of right on the spot is, I don't mind, my superpower is asking why not. Having said that, this is a place where, one, I could give you recommendations, but bless your hearts, if it doesn't resonate with you, you're not going to do it. So I'm not going to fight that. If you want a waiver, I'll go after it. Having said that, I am very, when the opportunity first came out, and, there's this federalism push. We don't want to, our Utah delegation doesn't like tangoing with the government. I said, I want to wait to see how this goes for other states before we do anything. When I said that at a meeting of superintendents, and they went, whew, thank goodness. If we did go after a waiver, I strongly advise only going after a waiver for money that comes and stays at the state level. I wouldn't necessarily advise going after the money that is dispersed to our districts, because they count on that. They have their own plans for that. I don't think we have a coordinated plan that would justify holding money back from districts. Now, if we want to play with the money that we get and the allocations that we get from the federal government, that's our business. But until we have a statewide, everybody rowing in the same direction kind of plan, I don't think we should mess with the district allocations. Now, having said that, you have an amazing state agency. Other people see it. Sometimes we're too close to see it. We have kept the federal entanglement to a minimum. When education was being returned to the states and there was talk about money being cut, there were state chiefs panicking, in tears, high blood pressure, because half their state agency is funded with federal dollars. That is not the case here. We have kept that footprint small, and we have kept that footprint very deliberate. Our reporting is not much beyond the absolute minimum, and we do a fairly good job. And I would love for anybody, any of the deputies or Deputy Jones or anybody to chime in here, especially if I'm saying something wrong. And please check me, but we don't have a huge federal entanglement that we need to undo. We have a limited number of employees that always are thinking about, because we don't have enough money and people to really get ourselves in trouble. That's the good side of having a limited budget. So while I can go through the exercise, and I am more than happy to get staff together and brainstorm some waivers, I have been working with you all. I have been one of you. And until you have a direction that you all have agreed on, I'm not sure that that is a good use of your staff time. You need to agree on a direction. I'm willing to do, of course, I'll do whatever you tell me to do, but I'm willing to get some seed ideas, but I'm not willing to take that too far without you deciding which direction to go. You have seed. Okay.
All right. I've got Member Bogus. Yeah.
Well, if Amanda wants to go, let her go.
Here's my list before Christina starts assigning. I've got Bogus, Wood, Carey, Bollinger, Earl. Well, Wood's next, and then Carey, then Bollinger. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Let's not look around. Let's get going.
Sign me. Okay, so we did a strategic plan, and in the Elevate Student Learning, we said ensure assessment systems will evaluate content knowledge to inform instruction and provide parents with personalized feedback that supports them in their primary responsibility for the education of their children. Then we went to our board workshop, and the Elevate student group said they wanted an assessment revamp. They wanted to look at elementary screeners, they wanted an ESSA waiver, they want to look at 8 and 11 assessments. So I come down here and I look at 21, and it says the state must produce individual student interpretive, descriptive, diagnostic reports that allow parents, teachers, principals, and school leaders to address the specific academic needs of students. That's possible. We have 20 that's possible, and then we have 18 that's already flexible. So how do I, as a board member, find my 3 other people and say, okay, I want to do something with assessments. It's in my strategic plan. Our board workshop said we wanted to make it happen. How do we do that?
Okay. I think that's what we're doing here. So if I was a teacher, I would say we have a 30-second whip around, and you all in 25 words or less put your idea out on the table. I think that's the point we're at, where that is enough information. That's a seed. So you're interested in assessment revamp. Now, I'm telling you, you basically went to the hardest one that's going to be challenging, because you're going to run right up against cutting out, or the feds wanting more assessment, y'all wanting less assessment, but it's a seed. So let's put it on the list.
I don't know if it's less, it's just more meaningful. I would think if
Fair.
you look at our strategic plan, it's
Fair.
how do we get an assessment that really impacts, that parents can look at it and say, this is what my student needs, how can I help them? The teachers can inform their instruction. And I know there's different types of assessments, and some inform instruction and some inform parents, but how do we take the package and change it so that when somebody doesn't say, I don't have my kids take the RISE test because it's meaningless.
Right. So I would probably pair that with data and improving data systems, and and sharing data. That is an interest of the feds. That's an interest of a lot of different people, and it's a wide open frontier because of because of AI. So that's one area that I think is very promising if you pair assessment with data, but you make very clear from the very onset some guardrails around student data. But I think that's very legitimate. Absolutely. I think we should add that to the list. Let us do our thing. Let's see what else we can add to the list. And we can see, I can do something with that kind of suggestion. That helps. Can we put some more on the list? Yeah.
I've got Bogus, back to you, or Carrie next. You ready? All right, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think Leanne adequately stated what I would want to do far more than just those three that she mentioned. But I think we need to get a handle on our assessments.
Okay.
Like, absolutely. So there's number 2. We just as well vote
Plus-
right now. Let's get it
plus
done.
1.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well done. Thank you,
Thank
Member
you.
Wood.
Thank you.
All right, Member Carey.
Thank you, Chair. So I appreciate the opportunity for us to come up with ideas and suggestions, but I think the real expertise with this, and this is what I thought today was going to be, which is I look at staff, they're always the ones saying, look, these are changes in code you can make. These are opportunities that you may not be seeing in terms of financing. And so I was hoping that what today was going to be would be look, we've brought the expertise of the staff and the team and the superintendent, and these are the opportunities we think we as an agency would recommend that the board take, if any. And there may not be any, I don't know. Mm-hmm. But I just think that the expertise and the experience lies on that side of the ledger. And I'm not saying it can't be done, and I understand what the superintendent is saying, which is also, well, we're not going to be poking around, for hundreds of hours at these things and losing time. I think that's not efficacious, but I think that if there is something that jumps out to the superintendent or her team, and they believe that that's something that, look, this could be worth the board's time, mm-hmm. I would ask if it's appropriate that they circle back, they let us know, and then the board can look at that and say, yeah, that's something we think works. But right now, I just feel like just the depth of some of these issues, whether it's in special education or the assessments, whatever it is, we would really benefit from that expertise. So I just put that out there just as I think this has to be very collaborative in that sense for it to make sense. So with that, Chair, that's
why
Yeah.
we only need the word assessment. Like, that gives us a directionality. And then we can bring back some things, because the spectrum is just ginormous. I mean, we could go, I just need a few key words and we'll do exactly that. Just to narrow it down just a little bit so that we don't bring back something about and this wouldn't be one. I don't think this would be one, but say we went down the arena of CTE pathways, we spend, 15 staff members and 40 hours, and you go, oh, I don't even want to touch that with a 10-foot pole. That's a little harder. But to say assessment and to hear 2 people, that gives us a directionality.
But let me offer some clarity. Remember, we spent, I don't know how much money to do an audit into what we were doing federally. That person, it was a third party. They came in, presented to us, gave us all the information. It was wonderful. We loved it. We had a study session on ESSA. We said, board members, you have the information. Member Carey's exactly right. Staff says, yeah, if we see something, we'll bring it to you. Yeah. We haven't seen anything, which tells me staff hasn't seen a need for this. And then I know Molly, she's so kind. she's so kind. And I know 2 days in a row, I'm not going to leave this time, but she's like, look, you say assessment, I'll get on it. Okay, well, what's the process here? As a board member, we asked you guys, if you want to move forward with a waiver, put it through the process, get 3 board members on it, get specific. What do you want to do? Let's go through committee. Let's do this. Obviously, we're not taking any votes here. And Molly's saying, look, I'll go at the direction. Whatever, you want us to look into it? We'll look into it. But again, to Member Carey's point and to the point that Molly made earlier, hours and hours and hours based off of some people are like, yeah, well, it's in there. Let's do assessments, right? I know, Molly, but
yeah, how about we get 2 more ideas, 3 more ideas, and then we can take that next step and then bring that back.
At what point do we say, board members, this is the second time going through this, put it on an agenda, get 3 people together.
Well,
we have
because-
2 already for assessments. All you need is 1 more.
Because I can come
I
up with
know you
ideas
can.
far quickly than something on an agenda.
I know you can, but it kind of blurs the lines of us just telling you what to do compared to going through the process.
Yes.
That's all.
However, and to your point, I don't want it to ever seem like staff is getting out in front of their skis. And so even a word helps me know that that's something that is the will of the board. So that is, I'm not asking for a lot. I'm not even asking you to give me anything other than 1 word.
And there's nothing about UPAC in this.
Too soon.
Okay.
Those.
You can get in line. Here's who I've got next. After Member Carey, I've got Member Bollinger.
So I just wanted to add to this. So to Chair Hymas's point when he says 3 board members or more, but this is what we did I would argue that this is what we did in our workshop, that there was a group of 3 or more of us that came up with an idea. And I'm just saying, I know you weren't in my group, but I was in that group. So I was in that group. And if you look at it more specifically to line 17 on this, where it says you have to take you have to do a math and reading or language arts assessment administered in each grade, 3rd through 8th grade, and once in high school, and then science once in 3rd through 5th, once in 6th through 9th, and once in 10th through 12th. That is more specifically what we were discussing, is that we didn't want to have our kids have to take the RISE assessments 3rd through 3rd grade because we didn't feel like it was giving us information. I mean, it does help us compare schools to schools, which is important to do so we can see where our bright spots are and replicate that. But we didn't feel like it was also providing support for teachers to improve learning in the moment. Teachers get the information later and they no longer have the student to intervene with the student. So we talked about what we were hoping for is to replace this with a screener in both math and language arts or reading for K through 6, and then doing assessment once in middle school, so in 8th grade, and then once in 11th grade, so we can see progression. With that, we also discussed, so this is going to add to your list, really looking at our state requires more assessments than what this is listed, this federal government. So we really also want to get a picture of what does our state require in assessments compared to what federal requests or requirements are, and how much money is spent on development and implementation. Just basically like, what do we pay for those assessments that are not required by the federal government? So then we can decide, do we want to even ask our own legislatures? Maybe it's our legislator that we want to say we want to adjust this. So that's kind of what we had talked about, just to add context to that discussion.
And this is, I'm having a conversation in front of you. Did we put that in the briefing? Is that chart in the briefing? Okay, I am sending you a briefing that the staff put together about assessment, which is required reading before you all make another suggestion about assessment, because it gives you the background information that you need. In fact, if someone could go ahead and forward that right now to the board members, I would really appreciate it. I love you all, and I sat with you as a member, and you keep going after assessment. So that means to me that it matters to you. I want to remind you that we did assessment just a few years ago as there was a blue ribbon commission put together by our legislature. We went through hours and hours, and we would probably want to pick that work back up because it was dropped. Now, I understand that we'd want to go in a different direction, but I do think it would be good background information. I think we're in a different place. It was it was just pre-pandemic, and a lot has changed, but we were in that space, so there is a little bit of baggage there. And you are not shying away from the hard subjects, let me tell you, because assessment is about as tricky of one as possible. But good on you for tackling the hard stuff. So I'm going to put a +1, another +1 next to assessment. I am going to challenge you. There were 5. Okay, so 5. I'm going to challenge you that a screener is not the assessment tool that the federal government is interested in referring to as an assessment. A screener is not an assessment, and it will not meet the requirements of ESSA. Now, it can be part of our strategy, but it will not be able to be substituted for an assessment. And if I'm wrong, please jump in, but that's a fair statement, yeah. Can we?
Can I hold on one second? This is like a microphone's off for just a second because I don't want to announce it. Yeah, so it looks like we do have some ideas. I apologize. I really do. I did not start this fire. I'm going to go put it out though. And so will you take that and we'll be in touch. Thank you.
So with that, is there anybody else that wants to speak to assessment? Okay, with that, we'll move on from assessment. I think Member Earl was next in line.
Here's my list.
It's number 40. It's on the annual meaningful differentiation. We have Springboard. We've kind of have complicated things, right? We have Springboard and we have Elevate. Why can't we have Springboard and Elevate and then get rid of the TSI and use those 2 mechanisms in place of TSI? I don't want to impact the funding when it comes to what the LEAs are getting, but I do want to streamline it more so we don't have this complicated system on top of a complicated system.
On that.
Okay, Superintendent Hunt.
Yeah.
Something around that.
Yes. And there are staff members that are jumping up and down and cheering. They wanted to bring this proposal forward to you as a legislative change, but it's the other way around. CSI and TSI are the federal programs. Springboard and Elevate are the state programs. And between the two of them, there's too much overlap and they wanted to simplify. Now, whether or not we went with the Springboard Elevate or the TSI CSI, it doesn't matter. But the idea would be looking at combining the two and simplifying school improvement efforts in the state.
And we'd rather get rid of, but we'd
Member
rather
Davis, let's
waive-
get you on the microphone.
We'd rather waive CSI and TSI because we have more flexibility over Springboard and Elevate. And then we can still hope for the same amount of funds, but we can streamline how we're working to turn the schools.
So this is a
and
great
help.
example of why I needed to hear from you. That is something that staff is interested in. For them to know that you are interested in it gives it just a huge shot of adrenaline. So it's not a well, maybe they might be interested. So how much effort should I put in this?
Well, we are interested.
It's an interest that you've expressed. So thank you for indulging me.
But Chair, I had my light on for a different reason.
Okay. Member Davis.
So we're in full support of that one. I
Okay.
just want to categorize this or look at the numbers. So out of all of the things that you gave us, 20 are unlikely. Some are not specified, just a few, 4. 14 are already flexible. So there's a lot. We don't even need to really mess with that. They're unlikely because the secretary is prohibited via code, like civil rights and such. We have 10 that are limited. Maybe we look at those. But realistically, there are 12 that are possible. So within these ideas that we are bringing forward today, we hope that it doesn't feel like an overwhelm. Let's just stick to the 12 that are possible. If we need to veer into the 10 that are limited, but let's just narrow the focus so it doesn't feel like a large overarching 60-piece puzzle and
no.
focus in on those.
I'll say this, and staff did an awesome job of this, but this federal landscape changes by the minute. There are things on here that could have been unlikely, but another state Arkansas might have just convinced them that there's possibility in that. Or these things, this unlikely, possible, already flexible is very much a shifting sands type of thing. It's a guess. So it does not mean that something that is unlikely is still unlikely, or something that is possible is still possible. So it's how we put it together, and it's how we justify it, and it's how we control for it when we put it together. This was our best guess at the time that we did it, and it was when waivers were first announced. So let us put something together coherently and bring it to you in the areas that you're interested in.
Okay. Member Davis.
We've already applied for the EdFlex waiver. That is pending, right? So that will give us quite a bit of flexibility. I understood. So if that gets approved, would that amount of flexibility to those sort of trump over these waivers because we would already have?
They just go together.
So this isn't duplicative.
Not at all.
Okay.
In fact, there are a number of state waivers that the secretary sent back to the state saying, you already have this flexibility, you just didn't realize it. And it was under the EdFlex label.
Member Hall.
I'm not really sure even how to articulate this, but how can we work better together with Job Corps? I know that's probably going to require some sort of a federal ask or waiver or something like that, but I just wanted to see if that you can explore that maybe.
I can.
For Utah families specifically.
Which one?
For Utah families specifically.
Yes. That is actually probably under workforce development, and that would be with our partners. The interesting thing about that is there's a lot of momentum because it pairs very well with high expectations for graduation.
Right.
And it pairs very well in our state because our governor and our USHE system are already sprinting in that direction. So those are, that actually, I would dare say that we would be able to do multiple things if you're including that as one of them, just because there's so much momentum in that way. There's no easy button on this, but that one would be a easier lift than you hurtling into the brick wall that is assessment, but that is what you are fearless. So I'm with you.
All right. Thank you.
Yep. I have enough. This is, I have to, I'm cutting you off. Unless you
We have one more light. Can we take one more light?
Yes, we can.
Okay, we'll take one more light and then we'll stop there because we could probably stay forever. But
Well, the whole list will be.
Yes, that's right. Then we'll have yes.
Yeah.
Member Booth.
I just want to back up and clarify that in my previous moment of dysfunction, I was trying to get from you what you have just been giving us, because I don't, we don't know where the momentum is. We don't know what the governor's office is doing. We don't know what all these things are that you're dealing with every day.
Fair.
And we can come up with 3 people and say this is important to us and put it through the system. Great, but it's uninformed.
Right.
And so I just don't want us to be working in the same way you don't want your staff to be working in a whole bunch of things that the board is not going to go with. I don't want to take board members' time, since we seem to have so little of it and we get to stay here till midnight and all of that stuff. I don't want to take that time unless it really is something that is viable, that is that could make a difference, that could move the dial, that could be helpful to the staff and to the professionals that are working day in and day out, either here in the agency or throughout the state in the LEAs and charters. So I want us to find a better way of, yes, the system works. It could work, but it still would be uninformed compared to the discussion, even though it's 5:15. We probably would not have wanted to have this, but this was valuable. Now we're getting to something where you can work and we can feel like we can chime in and begin to then exercise our responsibility as a board to help direct the work, because this is something that's possible. And so I'm just hopeful that I'm communicating not like a poor, worn out board member that's been here too long, but that we're clearly wanting to do what our students and our educators across the state need. And we have ideas, but they may be less than fully informed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do you need any other information?
No, but you only have one more line.
All right. Member Earl, do you have a final motion for us?
I do. After I do a kind of a information thing yesterday, I told you that I would kind of go through that. What was it? The child sex abuse, human trafficking standards. I'm just going to hit one quick thing, and then I will actually send you the document, board members, because we had a couple things in our committee that I think, well, and the standard revision process that I'm encouraging you, if you have things, please submit them so that we don't have to repeat things that we've already talked about. So, but it just, under there, it talks about risk factors, and under this, and it's not, we don't use exactly the language that we had wondered about, but there is childhood sexual abuse is a risk factor, and sexual exploitation by family members or peers, children and youth who are engaged in sexting or have been subjected to sextortion are also at risk. Sextortion is a form of electronic blackmail that usually happens online. Anyways, there's a whole provision there. If it's not enough, let's bring it to committee and let's alter the language. I'll send it to you. I just told you I would follow up on that. With that, motion to adjourn.
We have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.